Taigo, quickly one query has come in where people are unable to actually not getting the link. Can I just share ये जो हमारा इसमें link आ रहा है with them where it says participants, copy invite link and share it with them. That will work now.
Yeah, that will work.
Hello, welcome everyone. A very good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. Let's wait for maybe 4, 5 more minutes for more people to join in and then we'll start. Thank you. Thank you so much for your patience. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are right on time, but let's maybe wait for one more minute. A couple actually more minutes for more people to join in. And thank you so much for all of you who have joined us, and looking forward to this webinar. Hello, namaste, adab. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and taking out the time to participate in this webinar. Welcome to our discussion today, which is going to be around the practitioner's lens, insights on scaling impactful solutions. Super excited and really grateful to have all of you here. Um, and I can see that introductions have also begun on chat. Please continue doing it. Before we start, let me actually share a few logistics related details and house rules with all of you. As you can see on your screen now, that for the entire webinar, we have a Zoom interpretation feature available for all the participants. I would like to now welcome Anmol, who would be supporting us throughout the webinar with the English to Hindi translations. You can see the instructions to access this feature on the slide that's in front of you, and these have also been pasted on chat for easy accessibility. Please note that once you actually turn this interpretation feature on, you will be able to hear Anmol, who is the interpreter and not me. And just to also say that there might be some echo while you start using this feature in the beginning, but that will fizzle out eventually. And please, in case you're trying to access this feature and there is some technical glitch, let the host know in the chat. And wanted to also share that we would be recording today's sessions for note-taking purposes. and I hope that's okay with everyone. In case anyone has any concerns with this, please let the host know in the chat. We are, as I speak, live streaming this session on YouTube. And if you're not comfortable with being recorded, we have pasted on the chat the live streaming link. Please do feel free to access it. We can start with the recording now. Okay. Great. Also, lastly, please find on the slide that has come up on your screens some of the house rules. These are also pasted on chat. I'm leaving the slide on for a few minutes for participants to read through it. Please also feel free to use the chat feature as you're doing now to engage with us throughout this webinar. And we look forward to your reflections across all the sessions today. You can also share your thoughts on social media by using the hashtags that will be pasted on chat. And we hope to make the sessions inclusive, engaging, and participatory, and also a safe space for all of us present here. And I would like to request everyone's support with the same. And with that, I come to the end of my logistics house rules related announcement. Thank you so much for all your patience. And let's now get started with the webinar to get the ball rolling. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Radhika Mathur. Radhika works with me in Dasra's Youth and Gender Equity team, where she leads the policy engagement portfolio for the 10 to 19 collaborative. She also supports the team with funder engagement and works across different projects focused on adolescent leadership and well-being. Hi, Radhika. Thank you for joining us. Over to you now.
Thanks, Tanya, and good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have you all join us. It is my privilege to welcome you on behalf of Dasra, but as well as on behalf of the partners who have co-curated this webinar with us. The reason why we have organized this session is because in our feed building role, we believe a lot of the learning and knowledge exists within our partner networks. We feel that our role is to facilitate such platforms for cross-sharing and learning. Today, you will see 12 of our partners who will reflect on their journeys and share with you what worked for them in their journey of achieving their objectives and leading their programs towards scale. Of course, in the journey of finding out what works, one has to equally learn what doesn't work. And it's actually this learning that is the most valuable for all of us to collectively build upon. Would just like to say that even though we are working on the priorities of adolescents and youth, we are still very diverse organizations with very different ways of working. We don't want to suggest in any way that what works for one organization will work for another in the exact same way. But we hope that the atmosphere of shared learnings in this webinar today inspires further conversation and collaboration among us. We are very grateful to co-curate this experience for you with all of the partner organizations who embarked on an experimental journey with us under the Call for Solutions banner. We have had the privilege of closely learning from these leaders who have been at the forefront of their impactful solutions in their journey towards sustainability and scale. And we're very happy to bring them together to share with you as well. In today's panel, we're going to open up the learnings across the themes of youth centricity, tech-enabled solutions, and policy engagement as pathways for scaling solutions as our partners have developed in their own journeys. Thank you once again for joining us, and I'll hand back to Tanya.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for setting the context and also giving us a segue into the agenda for today. And as I say that, you can see on the screens the flow for today. We have three super exciting discussions lined up on themes of youth-centric programming, technology for impact, and government engagement. I can see the chat feature already buzzing, but we hope to have you throughout the webinar actively engaging and contributing to the discussions as well. And with that, let's get started with the first panel for the day. Titled The Transformative Potential of Youth-Centric Programming. I would like to welcome Mr. Philip Matthew, Director at Magic Bus India Foundation. Hi, Philip. Philip leads the designing and managing of strategic interventions and programs in the livelihoods vertical at Magic Bus. He comes with rich experience in various agency-linked livelihood and economic empowerment programs at both state and national level. And he will be facilitating this conversation for us today. Hi, Philip. Welcome. It's lovely to have you, and over to you.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm really happy to be part of this conversation. It has been our core journey for last 1.5 years, along with the 12 key organizations who work with adolescents and youth on skilling, livelihood, and entrepreneurship. Today, some of us are going to share how this journey was linked with the youth-centric programming. This panel discussion on transformative potential of youth-centric programming. In this panel, we would like to cover three aspects. One is methods and ways that work for meaningfully engaging with the young people. Second, steps and ways to ensure inclusion across various identities, contexts, etc. And key learning from navigating the question sustainability. And to discuss and explore strategies and methods that have worked for practitioners in the adolescent and youth landscape for designing solutions with a youth-first and youth-centric approach. We have a diverse panel of experts here to share their insights and experiences on driving meaningful solutions with and especially with the young people. With that, let me introduce the panel. We have three dignitaries with us. Ms. Deepali Vandana. She is a co-founder and managing trustee of Urja Trust. Deepali has been leading efforts at the grassroots for the past 10 plus years towards ensuring the safety and inclusion of homeless young women and LGBTQ, lesbian, bisexual, gender and queer plus youth between the ages between 18 and 30 years. And we have a second panelist, that is Mr. Gaurav Arora, Chief Growth Officer at Salam Bombay Foundation. Gaurav manages the program for vocational skills development at Salam Bombay Foundation, which aims to support adolescents at risk of dropping out of education and enable them to build skills for a sustainable career path. Third panelist, Dr. Sandhana Adhikari. She is Senior Director, Program Manager at CINI India. She manages adolescent and youth empowerment and leadership development work in CINI, with expertise in working with the diverse stakeholders at the family and community level to ensure impactful engagement of young people. I welcome all three panelists in this first panel discussion. Welcomes you all. Let me start with the panel discussion. We have some questions to the panelists. Let me share a few thoughts before asking the questions. I represent Magic Bus. In Magic Bus this year, we reached out nearly 1.3 lakhs youth, and among them 56% were women. This higher reach out we are getting through our constant touch with the youths and their communities. More than 40% of youth are joining our programs through referrals from our alumni groups. The constant connection and touch with youth and their families and communities help us to reach out these big numbers. The alumni work as change agents for us to influence their peers. The objectives of our program is building youth agency and empowerment. The effective training and placement of the youth resulted as youth-centric strategies. I hope you all have the similar experiences. Let us hear from you. And will you able to respond the questions which is pertain to be answered in this session? Let me ask Deepali Vandana in the beginning. What are some of the methods and frameworks that in your experiences have helped in meaningfully engaging with young people, and ensuring that their voices are included at each stage of your work? Over to Deepali Vandana.
Thank you, Philip Ji, to asking this question. It's very important. First of all, thank you, Dasra, to initiate this dialogue from the grassroots people you are inviting. So, as Philip said in my introductions कि हम युवा यंग सर्वाइवर के साथ काम कर रहे, दोज आर लीविंग देयर हाउसेस या वी कैन से द फोर्स टू लीव देयर हाउसेस, और जेंडर बेस्ड वायलेंस या स्ट्रक्चरल वायलेंस के कारण वो घरों से निकल के आ रहे। बट सवाल यह है कि जब ये घरों से निकल के आ रहे तो ऊर्जा जैसे सामाजिक संस्थाएं इस यूथ पॉपुलेशन के साथ जो है वो क्या करती है। तो हम ये यंग सर्वाइवर्स के साथ उनके होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट और राइट्स के लिए काम कर रहे हैं उनके साथ मिलके। और जब हम साथ की बात करते हैं वहीं पे ये जो है मीनिंगफुल एंगेजमेंट जो है वो कहीं ना कहीं एक पर्सपेक्टिव आ जाता है, एक अप्रोच आ जाता है। लास्ट 23 ईयर जब मैं यूथ के साथ काम कर रही हूँ, यंग वुमेन्स और मेल यूथ के साथ, तो कहीं ना कहीं एक समझ में आया, और ये सारे लर्निंग और ये सारे अप्रोच जो है वो लर्निंग और वो एक्सपीरियंस से कहीं ना कहीं ऊर्जा ने अभी अपने इंटरवेंशंस में बिल्ड किए हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस है यूथ के एंगेजमेंट्स के लिए, और खास करके हम जब ट्रॉमा सर्वाइवर्स के साथ काम कर रहे हैं कि आपकी छोटे छोटे स्टेप्स भी जो है वो उनको इंश्योर करते हैं कि आप कितना उनको एक्सेप्ट करें, आप कितना उनके साथ जो है वो इन्वॉल्व हो रहे हैं, आप कितना उनको एज इट इज उनके सोशल पॉलिटिकल आइडेंटिटी के साथ जो है उनको समझने की प्रोसेस में है। और ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट होता है मीनिंगफुल एंगेजमेंट्स के लिए। इसको एग्जाम्पल के साथ अगर मैं जोड़ना चाहूंगी तो जो ऊर्जा ने एक अनुभव के आधार पे जो शुरू किया है कि आपकी सीटिंग अरेंजमेंट कैसे है। हम ज्यादातर देखते हैं कि जब हम यूथ के साथ काम करते हैं या हम जब यूथ के साथ काम करते हैं तो हम अपनी तरीके से एक सीटिंग स्ट्रक्चर्स बिल्ड करते हैं, और वहां पे हम इनवाइट करते हैं ग्रुप्स को, इंडिविजुअल्स को, और हम ये समझ पाते हैं कि हम जिस तरीके से अप्रोच या सेशंस को फैसिलिटेट करना चाहते हैं, इंडिविजुअल डायलॉग को फैसिलिटेट करना चाहते हैं, वो बहुत ही ज्यादा कंफर्ट रहेंगे। बट बात ये होती नहीं है, दिस इज नॉट अ ट्रूथ। बहुत बार क्योंकि इतने सोशल पॉलिटिकल एनवायरनमेंट से ये यूथ आ रहे जहाँ पे उनके पास बहुत मुश्किल से जो है हमारे जैसे चेयर टेबल, क्योंकि 10 बाय 10 के रूम और कमरे अवेलेबल होता है। और खास करके हम अगर युवा लड़कियों की बात करें, उनको बहुत मुश्किल होता है कि आप फैमिलीज में जब इतने सारे बड़े लोग आपके आसपास होते हैं तो आप उनके बीच में आपके टेबल चेयर या आपके जो बिस्तर होते हैं, बेड होते हैं, उस पे आप बैठे, तो ज्यादातर उनका जो सीटिंग होता है वो फ्लोरिंग होता है। तो आप जब उनके साथ इंटरैक्शंस करते हो, तो अगर आप उनके साथ टेबल और चेयर पे अगर इंटरैक्शन शुरू करेंगे तो सबसे पहले वहां पे ही उनके लिए बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है हमारे साथ इंटरैक्शंस करने के लिए। और यही कहीं ना कहीं जो हमारे इंटरवेंशन से हमने सीखा कि क्या हमारे सीटिंग्स अरेंजमेंट जो है वो फ्लोरिंग पे हो सकते हैं। लेकिन यहाँ पे एक और भी अप्रोच जो हम ज्यादातर देखते हैं, people saying not audible. Is it?
We are trying to sort it out, Dipali ji. Some of us can hear, and जिन लोगों के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है हम उनसे कनेक्टेड। प्लीज कंटिन्यू।
Okay. Okay. तो एक जो तरीका है कि हम उनसे इंश्योर करते हैं, उनसे पूछते हैं, उनके चॉइसेस लेते हैं कि क्या वो जमीन पे बैठ के बात करना पसंद करेंगे या हम टेबल और चेयर के साथ बात करें। यहाँ पे एक और इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है कि हम अपने तरीके से डिसाइड नहीं करते, क्योंकि आपने अभी तक ये एक्सपीरियंस किया ही नहीं टेबल चेयर का, इसलिए हम आपको फ्लोरिंग और सीटिंग अरेंजमेंट पे ही इंटरवेंशंस के लिए जो है वो कंटिन्यू करेंगे। हम वहां पे चॉइसेस रखते हैं, चॉइसेस इस तरीके से रखते हैं कि वो कहाँ बैठना चाहेंगे, टेबल चेयर पे बैठना चाहेंगे या फ्लोरिंग सिटिंग पे जो है वो बैठना चाहेंगे। क्योंकि बहुत बार हम इसको पावर के लेंस से भी देखते हैं, इंटरसेक्शनैलिटी के लेंस भी देखते हैं। क्योंकि आपको कभी अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिली नहीं, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप वो कर ही नहीं सकते। तो इसलिए वो बार बार जो है कॉन्शियसली जो है उनके साथ बातचीत करना। दूसरा जो इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट जब ऊर्जा काम करता है वो ये देख पाता है कि हम जिस यूथ के साथ काम करें, और मैं बार बार ये कह रही हूँ कि वो कौन से सोशल पॉलिटिकल बैकग्राउंड से आ रहे, वहां पे जो है सोशल स्ट्रक्चर का अपना एक इम्पैक्ट उनके जिंदगी पे रहा है। तो जब वो हमारे सेंटर्स में आते हैं या अगर वो हमारे ऑफिसेस में आते हैं, तो हमारे स्पेसेस में किस तरीके से डिजाइन किए हुए, तो वो किस तरीके से सिंबॉलिक है। तो ज्यादातर अगर हम ये देखें कि अगर हमारे स्पेसेस में हम इस तरीके के बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग रिलीजियस सिंबल्स को पोर्ट्रेट करते हैं या इस तरीके की चीजें रखते हैं, जो बहुत बार जो है बहुत मुश्किल होता है उन सर्वाइवर्स को जो माइनॉरिटीज और मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटी से आते हैं। और जब आपके ऑफिस में, आपके सेंटर में जब वो आते हैं, तो वहां पे एक ट्रॉमा जो है, एक स्ट्रगल जो है वहां पे जो उनका ट्रॉमा जो है, फिलिप आप मुझसे कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं?
No, nothing. You wanted to conclude with 1 minute. That's all.
ओके,
You
थैंक यू।
continue. No need to read the chat. Yeah.
या तो ये कोशिश रहती है कि सिंबल जो है अपने स्पेसेस में हम किस तरीके से जो है वो इंश्योर करते हैं कि वो उनको एक्सेप्टेंस के लिए या सेफ जो है वो इंश्योर करे। दूसरी जो इम्पोर्टेंट बात है कि हम किस तरीके से उनके एंगेजमेंट के लिए, देखिए हर प्रोसेस पे हर फेज पे जो है हम उनका कंसेंट ले। तो पार्टिसिपेटरी का जो मतलब होता है वो टोकनिज्म के तरीके से नहीं। अगर हम यूथ के साथ काम कर रहे हैं तो हम ये नहीं समझे कि उनके पास अनुभव बिल्कुल नहीं, उनके पास ट्रॉमा है जो एक तरीके का अनुभव उनका बिल्ड कर चुका है कि कौन सी चीजें उनको बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रेसफुल करवाती है, कौन सी चीजें उनको बिल्ड करवाती है। तो हमें ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है कि उनके जो भी इवन नेगेटिव अनुभव भी रहे, एक्सपीरियंसेस भी रहे, उसको हम किस तरीके से रिस्पेक्ट करें और उसको कॉन्वर्जेशंस में और हमारे इंटरवेंशंस में जो है वो इनिशिएट करें या बहुत ही इंश्योर करें कि कहाँ पे उनको ट्रिगर नहीं होगा और वो उसके बारे में हमसे बातचीत करने करें। और इसीलिए कंसेंट जो है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहता है हर स्टेज पे। इसके साथ साथ जो है, क्योंकि जब हम इस तरीके के छोटे छोटे चीजों को करते हैं, हम ये इंश्योर करते हैं कि हम उनको इमोशनली चेक करते रहते हैं, हम उनके मेंटल वेलबींग को चेक करते हैं कि ये पूरे प्रोसेस में वो कहाँ पे, वो कहीं ना कहीं हमको बहुत मदद करता है उनके साथ पार्टिसिपेटरी कोई भी इंटरवेंशंस या एक्शन या एक्टिविटीज को एक सक्सेसफुल आउटकम और इंडिकेटर की ओर लेकर जाने के लिए। फिलिप मेरे
Debala,
पास और 1 मिनट है।
yeah,
Yes.
Debala ji, can you conclude? So we can, anyway, you will get one more chance. Can you conclude that? Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you saying कि चार्ट में मेरे लिए कुछ है या I'll go ahead with my understanding?
Okay, no, the conversation which we are having, can you conclude that so we can go to the next person?
Yes. तो एक जो चीज है कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस है कि हम जिन यूथ के साथ काम करें हमेशा हर स्टेज पे जो है उनके इमोशनल एंड मेंटल वेलबींग को हम चेक करते रहें, हम कंसेंट को चेक करें, हमारे प्रोग्राम के डिजाइन और स्पेसेस जो है वो उनके सोशल पॉलिटिकल आइडेंटिटीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए करें। ये कहते हुए आई वुड लाइक टू अगेन कम बैक टू फिलिप या इधर द नेक्स्ट पैनलिस्ट।
Yeah, thank you, Deepala ji. Over to Gaurav ji. Gaurav ji, the question was how we will meaningfully engaging the young people and ensuring that their voices are included in at each stage of our work. And can you
Sure.
just reflect on it? You will get 5 minutes to reflect on it, please.
5
Over
minutes.
to you.
Great. So, Philip, you said I've got 5 minutes, right? To say,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
set the timer accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, thank you so much. I think for inviting to this very interesting panel discussion. I would say that in this transformative journey, Dasara 10 to 19 has been a very big part of that. So, thank you, Dasara. Okay, so at Salam Bombay Foundation, we are primarily working with adolescents, and while we do a lot of program, in context of today's discussion, I'm going to focus on skilling and entrepreneurship. That is where we are also partners, under Call for Solutions. So पहली बात जो मैं बोलना चाहता हूँ, I just want to take all of us to 2009, and the skill development mission came up, in India, and that mission set a very ambitious target of training 500 million people, 50 crore की जनता, right? And basically the underlying assumption was that हिंदुस्तान के पास demographic dividend है, we have got young people, and Indian economy is booming. We are 2009 में we are growing at 7% GDP year on year. Okay, तो jobs की तो कमी है नहीं है. Okay, और हमने ये बहुत बड़ा मेगा प्लान बनाया. Okay, when we implemented this plan and program, and lot of new initiatives came up, a lot of great things happened. Private training, skill training ecosystem came up because of that. लेकिन अगर हम उसको देखें तो हुआ ये कि एक साइड पर बड़े पैमाने में जॉब थी और एक साइड पर बड़े पैमाने में यूथ था, और अजम्पशन ये था कि यूथ को जॉब से जोड़ देंगे. बट इन रियलिटी में जब इन लाखों युवाओं को ट्रेन करना शुरू करा गया, तो यू रियलाइज दैट दैट अजम्पशन इज नॉट वर्किंग. ट्रेनिंग में किसी को एनरोल करने का मतलब ये नहीं है दैट यूथ इज completing the training. The youth was completing the training, but youth was not picking up the job. or youth was picking up the job, but after 1 year, basically youth was leaving the job. So, there were some data which said कि for every 100 youth who are being trained, not even 30 or 40 remain, right? So, I don't think किसी ने youth से पूछा कि भाई आपकी aspiration क्या है? क्या आप plumber बनना चाहते हो? क्या do you want to become an electrician? So I think what really missed out in the entire game, was that no one checked with the youth, what are your aspirations? So that is my first point, like if you want to work with youth, right, सिर्फ वो एक जरिया नहीं है आपके पास आउटकम को पहुंचने का, उनके साथ आपने काम करना है, उनकी एस्पिरेशंस को आपने समझना है. So that is one thing, and that is where in Salam Mummy Foundation, our model is built around that, where our programs are starting at the school level, and creating those kind of aspiration among the youth. दूसरी जो मैं बात बोलना चाहता हूँ, I want to say that sometimes we have a one shoe fit all kind of strategy. Okay, तो for example जब हमने सलाम बम्बे में स्किल ट्रेनिंग फॉर स्कूल की शुरुआत करी, तो हमने बोला कि भाई देयर इज मोबाइल रिपेयर एंड देयर इज होम अप्लायंस रिपेयर and there is basically all different kind of trades, right, the traditional trades. And I still remember 2017 we were expanding in Pune. So we went to one of the school and we do orientation and we say कि आपको school के students को enroll करना है हमारे skilling के लिए. And I am so kind of over here I'll say हमारी learning क्या थी कि वो school के सारे बच्चों ने हमारे trades को reject कर दिया. और वो पहली बार हुआ. वो बोले कि ये गवर्नमेंट एडेड स्कूल था और वहां पर 85-90% बच्चे ऑलरेडी एसएससी में अपने स्कोर्स कर रहे थे, और उन्होंने बोला हमें इसमें से कुछ भी नहीं चाहिए. And that is where we realize that, basically, agar one shoe fit all, something has worked in Mumbai, it might not necessarily work in Pune. Okay, so then we went back to them and understood their aspiration. And that led to, us starting robotic training for the first time, because that was the aspiration. Coding, robotics, new age technologies. And I'm very happy to share जब हमने 2017 में रोबोटिक का प्रोग्राम करा, today it is one of our flagship model. 2021 में एक रोबोटिक का ओलंपिक होता है और वो जेनेवा में हुआ. टीम इंडिया जिसमें 5 सदस्य थे, 4 of them were Salam Mummy Foundation alumni, right? So I think it's only a matter of giving opportunities. It's really a matter of understanding कि हमारे युवा को क्या चाहिए. एक बात मैं और बोलना चाहता हूँ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कि एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की जो हमारी जर्नी है, और वो हमने बिल्कुल अभी युवा से शुरू करी है, क्योंकि मुझे नहीं लगता कि जो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का चैलेंज है, हम यूनिकॉर्न की बात कर रहे हैं बिना, और यूनिकॉर्न जो क्रिएट हो रहे हैं वो फॉर्मल इकोनॉमी के लिए क्रिएट हो रहे हैं, और ये इनफॉर्मल इकोनॉमी जो मोर देन 85% लोगों को एम्प्लॉय करती हैं. तो अनलेस एंड अनटिल हम यूथ को मोटिवेट नहीं करेंगे कि वो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को ग्रास रूट पे ना ले, ओके, तब तक हम ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के मुद्दे को सॉल्व नहीं कर पाएंगे. और वन हैज टू रियली लुक एट इट इन अ वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव फैशन, राइट. यूथ से पूछकर कि तुम्हें एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप क्या क्या कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, तुम्हारे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को हमें सपोर्ट करने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए. सो आई थिंक दैट वन शू फिट ऑल स्ट्रेटजी कैन नॉट वर्क. एंड देयरफॉर व्हेन वी आर लुकिंग एट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इन सलाम मम्मी फाउंडेशन, it is not just training but also all the enabling tools, and that knowledge basically has come up. I know Philip basically are putting a finger indicating, so I'll just wrap up in another few seconds, right? So so I think that is the story that one has to really युवा के पर्सपेक्टिव में उनसे समझकर उनकी आवाज को रखकर we have to decide how we should program, how we should make it as a part of the design. Few more things to say, but I will stop here, Philip, and maybe I can come back to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaurav. And over to Dr. Swandana. Again, the same question. How the programming meaningfully engaging the youth, and how we are hearing the voices, the youth, especially that included in our program. Over to Swandana.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everybody. And also I want to thank the Dasra team for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this panel discussion. So CINI has started working with adolescents since the year 2000. And basically, during our program designing and planning, we follow the CINI method, which is based on the principles of the human rights. And the principles are participation, accountability of the duty bearers, multi-sectoral convergence, and prevention. So in our program design, we promote a continuum of care. for better health and well-being outcomes of the adolescents and young people. So when we start our program, we try to engage our child in a very initial stage through our different programs like 1000 Days, through our education programs like that. And we have adapted different strategies to design our adolescent program model. So first strategy is to accelerate adolescent-led development through empowerment and increase participation. So through the formation of adolescent collectives and democratic selection of the peer leaders, we try to strengthen the peer-led approach. Also, we facilitate different capacity building programs for them to enhance their knowledge and skills and mobilize them to increase their meaningful participation in different decision-making platforms to amplify their voices. Also ensuring the participation of young people in contributing their needs in GPDP plan. The next strategy is to create family and community-based safety net, engaging parents and other duty bearers through different sensitization and orientation programs. We build the capacities of the parents, other duty bearers, including local self-government, so that they can also identify the issues related to adolescent health and well-being and other related issues also. We are also engaging the key stakeholders in our vulnerability assessment process by using our VAT tools. And it is also important to provide different support to the the local self-government, as well as we are providing technical support to the different line departments for program planning and implementation. The another strategy is advocacy and networking to promote an adolescent empowerment program model for replication and scale up. These are some strategies we are using while we are implementing or designing our adolescent programming. So that's it from my side. I think that I am able to maintain my timeline and also explain the strategies of our organization to implement the adolescent programming at different stage.
Thank you, Soundaraji. Yeah. It was very wonderful learning on especially how engaging youth in our programming. And Diwali was trying to see how inclusive the programs, especially when we dealing with the most marginalized segment in the community. And she was trying to see conversation with youth. That also very important strategy when we are doing the youth engaged strategy. Gaurav was trying to say, especially addressing the aspirations of youth, considering the aspirations of youth when we are programming any programs for the youth. That is very important. And Swadharati was trying to say, engage. One is participation of the youth in the program. Second, engaging the various types of stakeholders in the programming. That is important. That including community, parents, and even local self-government, etc. That is what I'm taking some of the learning from your experiences when we are looking at the youth engagement. And let me go to the next round of questions. These questions we can share. We can spend nearly 4 minutes each. And let me share some of my thoughts, what we are doing in Magic Bus. We have reimagined our livelihood interventions by introducing a few audacious goals, such as one demand-driven batch creation, where 60% of the batches are getting assurance that they will be launched in predetermined sector, and especially before the batch start. It means whoever going to be trained, they will be get the job in the particular sector. And 70% of place, so whoever in the batches, we ensure that 70% of the youth will be placed. And similarly, minimum 50% of the youth will be women. And we have continuous learning opportunities for alumni. This is providing a great result for us, I should say. We have estimated that nearly 7,000 crore incremental income brought to the families since 2014 onwards. And among this 3,500 crore rupees brought by women only, because we have more than 60% of the youth participated in our programs. It is eventually helping them to make decisions, especially women, on their career choices and personal life, because they support the families to double their family income. So it will helping them to come out of poverty, and actually they become the change makers in their families too. And I know all of you are doing the pioneering work, similar kind of work in building youth leadership and agency. And could you please share your learning or advices or recommendations on how does one ensure the impact on initiative is long term and does not phase out once the intervention is over on the field? It means the continuity or sustainability. You can exemplify this by sharing sustainability related challenges and how you navigated it. This time, let me ask to Swandana ji first, and then Gaurav and Diwali. We can follow it. Over to Swandana ji.
Thank you, Philip ji. So, first of all, we are facing different challenges or risk factors during implementation of the program. And before starting the program, we have planned accordingly to sustain our program models in future. But I think that it is most important to share the challenges and how we can mitigate those challenges. So that I want to share. So first of all, as we know that during our program implementation, we are facing a lot of challenges from the different department, and also government platforms and different departments not meet regularly, and it's hampering the participation of the adolescents and especially girls, and also delaying decision making. So to resolve this issue, we try to advocate with functionaries at the block and the district and state level, then follow up with different stakeholders to conduct the meeting regularly. Sometimes we try to organize those meetings to, meet with the stakeholders and try to formation of that committee or the platforms also. To strengthen that platform, that is also very necessary. Then sensitize adolescents about the benefits and empower them to attend meetings across platforms. Then second risk factor is impediment in providing services on sexually reproductive health to adolescents and talking about it in the community. Still, we know that whenever we start talking about the sexual reproductive health issues, it is still a taboo, and we need to, face that challenges whenever we start new initiative in new intervention areas. So the mitigation techniques or the strategy is to set guidance to develop clinics that can provide sexual reproductive health services at a single place to increase their accessibility, availability, and utilization. Then the next risk is about adolescents may not have the time to engage with the program, especially who are school going or working or dropouts. And it is really, we are facing challenges to retain those peer leaders in our programs. So the mitigation strategy is about, we try to set this meeting based on their flexible time, and also try to motivate them, engage them through different activities or participatory methods. And also we try to felicitate them, especially to our peer leaders and the champions for their good job or for appreciation of their works. And the last but not the least, I think that it is very challenging for all of us to get short time project periods, because within this timeline, we are not getting satisfactory timeline to get proper result or impact of that program. And for our sustainability purpose or the plan, we try to, build an agreement or contract with the community before closing our program, so that they can also take forward this initiative or carry forward this initiative in future. So these are some kind of sustainability plan or how we can face the challenges and what is our, what are the sub strategies to mitigate those challenges? Thank you so much, Philip.
Thank you, Swandana. Or to Gaurav, the question, especially we would like to hear from you, how the impact of an initiative has its long-term impact, or how we ensure the sustainability, and what are the key challenges we face, how we mitigate.
Sure. Thank you. So, first of all, we are three siblings, and I'm the middle one. So, Phillips, you made me kind of at home, by putting me middle for both the questions. Okay. So, jokes apart, I think, particularly with this issue of sustainability, primarily for skilling and entrepreneurship, it takes a very different definition, because skilling and entrepreneurship, in a way, are not like a behavior change program, where you bring about a change and then you hand it over to the community, and community can take it forward at large, right? So I think somewhere in sustainability, when we talk about skilling and entrepreneurship, we have to think of it a little differently. So one thing is, how to exit and when to exit, right? From the perspective of sustainability. So we see two kind of things. On one side, we generally see, you skill and you do entrepreneurship and you leave, right? Now, unfortunately, that kind of intervention will never lead to sustainable outcome, because, in our opinion, you have to handhold. You have to kind of continuously support. We don't leave our children in our. We be with our children for 15-20 years, our own children, and then we see an outcome. Okay, so वो 3 महीने की स्किल ट्रेनिंग के बाद या 1 महीने की entrepreneurship ट्रेनिंग के बाद कोई entrepreneur in general नहीं बनने वाला है. So I think fact of the matter is that you have to kind of basically you can't exit so easily, right? At the same time, what I want to say is that, on the other hand, basically we also see a perspective where you don't leave. You keep on giving and giving and giving and giving. That is the other end of spectrum. So I think at Salam Bhumi Foundation, we personally believe that your sustainability strategy should like be a pyramidal structure or a funnel model. Okay, money at every stage you are trying to be an enabler. You give first of all at the bottom, which is like a maybe a heavy duty initiative, and then you don't leave, right? You continue to work and engage with youth, and rather than recreating the wheel, meaning by you are creating your own programs. Our recommendation at Salam Bhumi Foundation would be that in order to, once you have engaged with the youth for basically a year or year and a half, okay, your role as an organization should be more of an enabler, where you should be able to, and there are many like-minded organizations, which are working on different areas. As an example, when we do school level skilling, basically in beauty training, and then, post 10, you can link them to a lot of, youth beauty training centers, rather than you doing something on your own, right? When we are doing entrepreneurship program, you initially support them, but then finally you link them to, a government entrepreneurship program. In one of our panels, we are also going to have BYYST and, Let's Endorse. So point is that, you don't have to necessarily create something on your own. There is a Mudra scheme of Government of India. So after you have supported them for a while, one, I'm saying we should not leave it. And second, I'm saying, organizations have to play and the role of an enabler, an integrator, where you can link and tie them to a lot of opportunities, which are there, rather than trying to do everything on your own. So I think this is very, very important aspect of sustainability. Second, I think, and that's my last point, on this particular track, is can you also look at your own youth, for their participation, and at least the good ones. So many of them are actually, are working as trainers in Salam Bhumi Foundation on a merit basis, right? Okay, so you train them, and then kind of, they are very good. They come from that socioeconomic strata. They understand, basically your youth, right? So then you're bringing them in and also kind of, basically giving them opportunity. So that's a part of the enabling bit only. But larger point I'm making is that, I don't think we should leave them like that or continue to hold them. So it should be somewhere a balance, and that is the balance that in Salam Bhumi Foundation we are trying to create through that pyramid or funnel structure.
Okay, thank you, Gauravji. Over to Diwali, and you can share about how you made sustainability in this, especially the impact side, and what are the key challenges when we look at that.
So almost Gaurav and Dr. Santavana is cover a few things. But when I saw the Uja's interventions and our journey with the young survivors, एक जो समझ में आ रहा है, for the sustainability is not enough to work with young survivors and youth. It's a need to work ecosystem के साथ भी हमको काम करना उतना ही जरूरी है, क्योंकि जब ये यूथ इतने empower हो रहे हैं, when they are coming going with some understanding to community, और जब लार्जर कम्युनिटी जब उनको उस तरीके से जो है रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करे, उनको इन्वॉल्व नहीं करे, इंक्लूसिव एक बिहेवियर नहीं रख रहे, तो ऑटोमेटिकली दिस यूथ इज समवेयर द डीमोटिवेट, वो एक अलग डायरेक्शंस में जो है वो चले जाते हैं। इसलिए इट्स वेरी मच इम्पोर्टेंट कि हमको लार्जर सोसाइटी के साथ भी जो है काफी ओपन डायलॉग और इनिशिएटिव करना चाहिए। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर हमारे पास CSR आते हैं, सो हम CSR के साथ ये बात करते हैं, व्हेन वी आर रेफरिंग दिस यूथ टू योर कंपनी, वॉट एवर द कैपेसिटी एज अ एम्प्लॉई, आप उनके साथ किस तरीके से बिहेव करते हैं। तो कास्ट एंड ये इस तरीके के जो डोमेन है, उसको हमको काफी ओपन डायलॉग्स जो है वो सिस्टम के साथ और कम्युनिटी के साथ करने की जरूरत है। ये हमें बहुत ही हमारी इंटरवेंशन से महसूस हो रहा है। बट अगेन दिस इज अ एक्सटर्नल इंटरवेंशन। जो यूथ के साथ हम काम करें, वो इंटरवेंशन क्या सस्टेन कर सकता है उस यूथ के लिए, वो हमको एक समझ में आया है। वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड देयर नीड्स, क्योंकि उनके नीड्स से उनके बिहेवियर जो है हम एक तरीके से ऑब्जर्व कर पाते हैं। तो बहुत बार बिहेवियर्स और पैटर्न को चेंज करने के लिए इट्स रिक्वायर्ड लॉन्ग प्रोसेसेस और बहुत टाइम की जरूरत है। बहुत बार ये होता है कि एज अ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हम सारे प्रोसेसेस हमारे रिसोर्सेज के अराउंड बिल्ड करते हैं, और कभी कभी हम जब वो रिसोर्सेज के अराउंड बिल्ड करते हैं, तो हमको रिजल्ट और आउटकम जब उतने दिखाई नहीं देते हैं, हम समझते हैं कि ये व्यक्ति में वो कैपेसिटी नहीं, और हम उसको जो है एक तरीके से रिजेक्ट करते हैं। यहाँ पे मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि एज अ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ये हमने सीखा है कि इट्स वेरी मच इम्पोर्टेंट टू इन्वेस्ट इन अ टीम जो इंडिविजुअल्स यूथ के साथ काम करे, कि उनका अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्या है बिहेवियर को समझने के लिए। जो यूथ के साथ वो काम करे, क्या वो उनके सोशल पॉलिटिकल आइडेंटिटीज और उसके ट्रॉमास को समझ पा रहे, ताकि वो उनके बिहेवियर्स को समझे और उस तरीके से उनके नीड को मीट करने के लिए डिजाइन कर सके उनके इंटरवेंशंस को। एक एग्जांपल्स के लिए मैं बोलना चाहूंगी कि मैं ये क्यों कह रही हूँ, और खास करके जब गौरव बता रहे हैं कि लाइवलीहुड्स में जब हम इस तरीके के इंटरवेंशंस करते हैं कि वो इकोनॉमिक इंडिपेंडेंट हो, तो अभी बहुत बार ज्यादातर देखा जा रहा है कि हाँ, बहुत बार हम यूथ को एक ही टाइप की ट्रेनिंग जो है वो ऑफर करते हैं, क्योंकि उस तरीके के मार्केट्स में अवेलेबिलिटी है, उस तरीके के कॉस्ट कटिंग के कॉन्टेस्ट में हम ज्यादातर सोचते हैं। अगर हम एग्जांपल देखें कि अगर हम कोई एक मॉल में जाते हैं और हमको जब सेम टाइप के जब ड्रेसेस दिखते हैं या मटेरियल दिखते हैं, तो हम उतने ज्यादा प्लेजेंट नहीं होते हैं। हम देखते हैं अरे इसमें कुछ वैरायटी नहीं, हम अपने आप को यूनिक बताना चाहते हैं, लेकिन क्योंकि मार्केट उस तरीके से मटेरियल जो है वो प्रोड्यूस नहीं कर रहा है, इसलिए हम उसके साथ जो है वो कंटिन्यू करें। क्या हमारे एनजीओ के प्रोग्राम भी हम उस तरीके से डिजाइन करें, हम कॉस्ट कटिंग में हमारे रिसोर्सेज के कॉन्टेस्ट में हम एक ही तरीके की ट्रेनिंग जो है मार्जिनलाइज यूथ को दे रहे हैं, और जो हम देख पा रहे हैं कि वो एक दो टाइप की ही इंडस्ट्रीज में जो है अपने आप को जो है वो परस्यू कर रहे हैं। तो ड्रीमिंग और एस्पिरेशंस के प्रोसेसेस हम किस तरीके से कर सकते हैं, जहां पे रियलिटी को बेंड करने की उनकी कैपेसिटीज है, लेकिन क्या हमारी वो रिस्क हो सकती है। तो उस तरीके के प्रोसेसेस और प्रोग्राम को हमको डिजाइन करनी चाहिए। और हमारे जो SOPs होंगे, हमारे जो स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोटोकॉल या प्रोग्राम जब हम एग्जीक्यूशन के लिए डॉक्यूमेंट डेवलप करते हैं, उसमें बहुत बार हमारे एक्टिविटीज के फ्लो चार्ट या प्रोसेसेस हम लिखते हैं, लेकिन वहां पे अगर हम इंश्योर करें कि हर यूथ उस प्रोसेसेस में क्या महसूस करता है, उसके हमारे प्रोसेसेस के इंडिकेटर्स या वो स्टेप्स हम किस तरीके से इंश्योर करते हैं, तो अगर हम ये सारी चीजें अगर कर पाएंगे, तो शायद वो यूथ उतने ही अपने पोटेंशियल को जो है वो एक्सप्लोर कर सकेगा और वो सस्टेन कर पाएंगे कम्युनिटी लिमिट्स में।
Okay. Thank you, Diwali ji. If I'm going to summarize, especially regarding the sustainability, Swandana was trying to say, when they're planning itself, the sustainability and continuity of the program will be incorporated into the planning process itself. That is one element. Second, engaging with other stakeholders, especially convergence and leveraging with other programs. That is what the Swandana was trying to highlight. But at the same time, there are some elements of cultural elements when we plan the programs. That is what she was trying to explain. Sexual and reproductive health programs when we plan, that is very important because some of the things are cultural sensitive. And some of the elements she was explaining, especially when work with the youth, appreciation of the youth who are the change makers or champions, or and building the confidentiality and confidence with the community. These are the highlights from the Swandana. And Gaurav was trying to say when and how to exit from the program, that is important. And very interesting point, the strategy for sustainability is a pyramidical, or let us say funnel kind of shape. It means that is completely lies on the enabler part of the organization. That is another suggestions or the strategy the Saddam Bombay is trying to do it. And Dipalaji was trying to explain about how do we make open dialogue with the system and community. That is important when we look for the sustainability and understanding the needs and how do we address it, especially when we look at the people with the trauma and who need care. That is what Diwali was trying to say. And let us conclude our panel discussion with taking one question.
Philip, I'm so sorry. There are two on chat. There are a few questions.
Yeah, I'm
Do you
taking
want to
one
look at that?
question
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
time because we are running short of time. Let me take one question. That is very important, interesting question. And strategy for skilling and self-employment, mainly in rural and tribal areas, which also help reducing migration. And how do we address this with the youth centricity perspective? I don't know who will be responding to that. And it is very interesting question. How migration, addressing the migration, you can go ahead.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Thank you. So I think, the question that Kedareshwar raised, and also, the Shovan has also raised a question. So I think for me, the questions are interconnected because sometimes, basically, as I said, we go with a one shoe fit all kind of strategy. What has worked in the urban areas in terms of skilling. Okay, you are trying to replicate the same formula also in the tribal area or also in the rural area. It might really not help. And, we have seen if you train someone from rural area and you're asking that person to migrate and the job is somewhere in the urban area, if you look at the cost of living and a lot of other things, and that is the reason, even after skilling, they migrate and then they reverse migrate, right? In the sense, it's not sustainable, because the jobs are not giving them those kind of opportunities that they can sustain themselves living in urban cities, the kind of money. So I think in order to look at that question, again, there are kind of, basically, there cannot be one way of looking at things. But from our experience, I would suggest that one has to really look at creating, some kind of job opportunities within the community. Okay, so I think, can we look at identifying the local markets? Okay, can we look at identifying what is more local, to that community, to that rural area, basically, or to that tribal area? And within that, so because ultimately all this entrepreneurship, the unicorn thing that is happening in our country is actually addressing the job issue for the largely formal sector, okay, which employs 15% of the people. So 85%, jahan logon ko job chahiye, unless and until we are able to create job opportunities of that kind, unless and until we are able to understand the markets over there, unless and until we are able to train people in the things that are required over there, we will not be able to solve it. So I don't have a ready-made, solution for it, but at least, that can be a start where we kind of, start understanding the local market, train accordingly, and hence, create self-employment and employment opportunities around it.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Because we are running short of time, let me close here. I'm really happy to be a moderator, and thanks to Diwali, Swandana, and Gaurav being part of this panel discussion. And we really appreciate the effort on this. Over to Tanya.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was a great start to the discussion today, and I know, and Philip, for also being a facilitator, bringing together all the learnings for us. But just to quickly share two quick things that I took away from this conversation is What are some of your strategies that have worked for actually tangibly, navigating with the hierarchy that comes with the kind of adult-youth relationship that I'm sure people working in this space have been navigating. And second is understand their aspirations and goals. Don't assume. I think these two things that I'm taking away with me from this entire conversation. And thank you so much to the panelists for also engaging and also responding to the questions that are coming up on chat. 45 minutes are never enough, and I end up saying this, and I think most of the conversations that we hold that we need more time. For that, what I can take, maybe just taking the liberty to say that we'll be pasting our panelists and speakers LinkedIn on the chat again. So please feel free to connect with them and take these conversations forward with them. Can we please have their profiles on chat now? Yeah. And now, before we start with the next session, I just want to come in with a couple of things. One is to say that in terms of Zoom interpretation, please be in the main room and to hear the panel in English. And in case you want to hear it in Hindi language, please switch to Hindi because the English channel does not have an interpreter there, so you won't be able to hear anyone. I think that was what the glitch was happening. So kindly stay in the original audio room for English, and you can switch to the interpretation channel in Hindi to listen to the entire webinar. And just wanted to, before we go on to the next panel, wanted to say that maybe we take like couple of minutes break, 2-3 minutes of break, and then come back at about 3 o'clock to move forward with the next discussions. So I'll see everyone at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. That was a very short break. Hope you got the chance to get some water or chai. And a very warm welcome to everyone who has just joined us now. For those who have joined us now, can we please have the house rules on chat? Thank you so much for joining us. We'll just be pasting the house rules for you on chat for you to quickly go through them. Yes. After a super engaging first panel, we now move on to the second panel for the day, which is leveraging technology for impactful solutions. To start this, I would like to welcome Ms. Monica Shukla, co-founder and director at Let's Endorse. Monica is leading efforts in digitizing and digitally enabling the maturation journeys of micro enterprise aspirants. And so glad to have you here, Monica. Welcome. And over to you now. Looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. Can you confirm if you're able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so thank you once again for the warm introduction, and I'm delighted, to be in the position of a facilitator for this panel, which is called Leveraging Technology for Impactful Solutions. We are joined today by three extremely passionate doers and practitioners in the development space, and we shall together be exploring the way in which they are designing, testing, delivering, and scaling technology-based or technology-led solutions. We shall also be learning what have been their key learnings, insights, the challenges that they are facing that they would like to share with the communities and organizations doing similar work. So without further ado, let me introduce my co-panelists. My first co-panelist is Mr. Ashish Kherkar. Ashish is a director at Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust, BYST. He's been leading BYST's program for empowering youth entrepreneurs with the skills and resources that they require to succeed in their journeys. A core part of Ashish's portfolio is to also create and sustain a network of mentors and guides in the entrepreneurial ecosystem who can support scaling up of learnings and impact. Welcome, Ashish. Our second co-panelist is Ms. Neha Parthi. Neha is the director for the school's program at Quest Alliance. A core part of her work at Quest is on adolescent development, with a keen focus on girls' education, building STEM mindsets, and career exploration. As part of that, Neha has worked on developing a digital game called Career Quest, which makes career decision making easier for youngsters. Super inspiring. Welcome, Neha. And our third co-panelist is Ms. Priya Thuvasari. She is the director at Chambal Media and also an independent documentary filmmaker. She's also a TV producer. Her work centers around women and gender. At Chambal Media, she is leading the efforts to create a feminist response to digital inclusion. And she's doing this by training and mentoring rural women as researchers, as content creators in some of the remote rural parts of India. So welcome, Priya. So all the organizations, which are there on the table today, all of us work for diverse communities, but the common underscore is our leveraging technology to build and developing, the solutions on the ground, particularly for women and youth. So let's dive right in. I would start with asking a round of questions to the panelists, and my first question has got three parts to it. The first part is, could you please share a brief overview of the tech-driven solution? The second part is, what about one key learning when it comes to leveraging technology for scale? And what are some of the aspirations that you have for your solutions? So I'll start with Ashish. Ashish, it'll help if you can answer the three parts to this question.
Yeah. So thanks, Monica ji, and thank you to the Dasra team for giving me this opportunity to be part of this sessions. And of course, this call for solution programs we have started in the last year. It is long journey and it's a cross learning, and we learned many things from the micro organizations, co-colleagues. So good. So let me share about the BYST, what I am representing today. So BYST is Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust. It's a non-profit organization, and we are working in entrepreneurship. Those comes under the age group of 18 to 35. And of course, our uniqueness is mentoring, what Monica has mentioned. So the mentoring is our key aspect of our entrepreneur's journey. So to support these entrepreneurs, we have around 18,000 volunteers across the country. We call them as a mentor. So since last 3 decades, we have supported around 45,000 entrepreneurs, and we have offered the mentoring support to them. And this 45,000 entrepreneurs, they have created around 4 lakh jobs. That's how Gaurav was telling in the previous session how to create the jobs. So the entrepreneurship is the one of the solution to create the jobs. Coming to the main topic, like technology. See, like, the nowadays everybody is talking about the digital transformation, digital solutions. So similarly, like non-profit organizations or NGO also adopted the digital transformation in their activities or then process. So I have one learning which I want to share among the group. So, generally, all activity, like majorly in the entrepreneurship, there is a training, which is very important factor in the entrepreneurship journey. So we used to offer the 2 days training program, and typically it was a classroom training, and get the participant, to get the trainer, to get the facilitator, and that's how we were doing the training across the country. But what we found them, like when we were offering a training in a classroom pattern, so different trainer, they are using their different content, different model, different process. As we are working across the country, we have over 20 centers in the 16 states. So the different languages are there. So then when we did the kind of a monitoring evaluation of our training, so we found that this training contents are not up to the mark. Many trainers, they are using their own content. What we want to offer, that is not happening. So then somehow we thought we have to make the standardized. And when we have thought that, and then we have started to uh, standardize the entire content in the all regional language wherever we have our presence, especially Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, that way. And the same times we face the challenge with the pandemic. So then again when pandemic came, again we stopped all our the ground activity. So then we started to conduct the training in the virtual platform. So in the virtual platform, again, the different challenges, people were not giving attentions, they are not logging in time, so that's happened. But meanwhile, we have developed our training, which is the blended learning course. So then after the pandemic, again, we started the classroom training. So when we have started the classroom training, the idea is here. So due to that blended learning course or blended learning model, so we maintained our content, standard content everywhere. We have offer, the tablet to the people to do the proper assessment of the training, because our training speaks around 7 to 8 models, and after each models there is an assessment. So when we those days when we were doing in a traditional way, many people were not doing the assessment during our virtual platform. Many people, they have not submitted their assessment, so we could not complete their training, and the training and the assessment is a mandatory to go for the further step or further stage. But here when we develop the uh, blended learning course through the technology, and that blended learning course we have inbuilt with our LMS. So now it is very easy to all youth, even though youth are sitting in let's say in a north, south, east, wherever, they can learn, they can go to our LMS, they can attend our training, they can do the assessment. That is the one way. And the second way, wherever we have our presence, we are calling a participant, youth, to attend the training in the classroom session. Because in the classroom session, you will get the facilitator, you will get the trainer who will support you to complete your course, then assessment. And those are not having a kind of a smartphone with them. And then organizations started to offer the
tablet to them for the training purpose. So that's how, the collective manner we have supported to the youth. And today, if you see, we are completing our course assessment, we are maintaining the quality, everything in the within a time. Because everywhere there is a time frame we need to conduct and we need to complete our activity within a certain time. So today we are maintaining that, we are completing our training within a time period, we are maintaining a quality, we are maintaining our all participants, they are doing assessment. That's how we have improved our scale of our training. So those days we were offering a training around 4 to 5,000 youth per year. But today, due to this intervention, you can see we are offering a training to around 25,000 to 30,000 youth. That's a learning of the technology.
Ashish, would you also want to share some thoughts on, your aspirations for the unique solution that you have developed, the blended learning platform that you've developed?
Yeah. See, the point is like, when we are working in the community, you have a different type of community. You have rural, urban, semi-urban, So we need to consider that everybody's the thought process, everybody's the approach. So when we have developed this course, we have, very thoroughly we have gone through and understand the profile or persona of our beneficiary, what kind of a beneficiary, because we are targeting the age group of 18 to 35. So means you will get the young people, you will get the 35 age group. Those are having the knowledge of the like LMS or the tools or applications. Few people, especially from the tribal area, we have some tribal program in the Raigada and the Kalandi district of Odisha. So we consider that also. So when we are club everything's every personas thought process, and then we found the LMS and the blended learning course, which is very useful, because as you know, blended learning course is the there is a certain classroom exercise is there is a practical assessment, there is a video, audio, so which will you can engage the participant. So because during the training, engaging the participant, especially the young participant, youth, it's very difficult or it's a very challenging job. So through this blended learning model, we engage them. And now all participants, when they are joining the training, they are completing their training. There is no dropout between the training.
Sure. Thank you, Ashish. Moving on to Neha. Neha, a brief of your solution, one key learning which you have derived when it comes to using technology for scale, and what are some of your aspirations for scaling up?
Thanks, Monica. I think I'll build a lot on what Ashish has shared since he spoke about the blended learning modules for youth. We've designed a blended learning course for teachers, government school teachers, which we call Master Coach. And we offer it through an app which we've developed at Quest. So for this question, I'm going to use that as my reference point. So for us also, I think we were very clear that we wanted to build a blended learning solution where we will have physical touch points with the teachers as well. So there would be a workshop in the beginning where we'd introduce the course, we'd introduce the app to them. And then there are people whom we call e-tutors who would follow up with them on an ongoing basis to ensure that they are, moving ahead in their journey. If they're facing any technical glitches, then they have somebody whom they can be reaching out to. And these are also people, e-tutors are people who are also helping them kind of make the connect between their learning and application inside the classroom. So because I think like for us, it was very critical. This blend was very critical because we looking at research, we had also seen that when you design MOOCs, they have a very low completion rate. So you need something which is blended, which has that human element and that human connect. So that kind of inspired the design for us. I think the learning for us has been very, very interesting. And just today, I was in a review with my team about it as well, where we were asking all sorts of existential questions about our solutions and our approaches as well. I think one of the things which stood out for us as a team was that when we are designing a solution for scale, how are we testing it, and to what extent are we testing it at scale as well? Because some things can work in a smaller pilot, but when you scale it, it might not work in the same extent because we might not have accounted for certain things, and especially when it is a technology enabled solution as well. So for example, for us, there were reflections around what should the onboarding process look like, right? Like, should we allow for a self-registration where a teacher can come in and create their own account? Or should we create their accounts for them and send them a link saying that the account has been created for you, right? Like, what does this mean from the point of view of self-initiated learning, motivation to learn, if we are creating their accounts versus they are creating their own account? So there were lots of learnings around that. I think the second biggest learning for us was to just be able to differentiate between that if there is an issue that is coming up, whether it is a platform issue from a technology lens because there is a technical glitch at your backend, or whether it is a content issue because you've developed and published your content in a certain way because of which that glitch is coming. So sometimes, like a lot of times, teachers would say, you know what, I've completed the course 3 times, but still that green tick is not coming, which shows a completion rate. So for us, I think it took us some time to figure out that was it because of the way the content was coded onto the platform that this is happening, or is it a glitch on the platform? Is it a feature that we forgot to develop in our design? And therefore, what it does to the team, right, when they are taking a solution to the ground, and if it is not like fully ready or you're not able to figure why an issue is happening, then adoption takes time. And when we are talking about technology solutions, I think like that mental preparedness that we need, that technology solutions need an adoption runway, because there are a lot of things that you are talking about shifting. It's not just saying that here is my product and it's great, use it. But it's also about mindsets that you are shifting. You're asking them to use a mobile for learning, which people are otherwise not used to that naturally, right? It's usually for entertainment, for shopping. But now you're saying that here is my app and use it for learning. Then you're also competing for space on their phones. Like, you know, yours maybe would be the first app they would delete when their storage is full. So what kind of reinforcements you need, what kind of things you need to take into account from an operational design point of view as well, right? So then this becomes a strategy question as well. So there's platform, there's content, there's your operational strategy. All of that need to come in sync for a technology-enabled solution to work. So for us, I think that has been the biggest sort of learning. In terms of aspiration, I think I'll articulate it at 2 levels. I think right now with the coming in of AI-generated content learning, one of the aspirations definitely is that we should be able to build AI-enabled search, which brings together content from all over and allow teachers to search for the kind of content that they want. So a teacher in Odisha, in Raigada district, wants something which is very, very contextual for their district, in their language, speaking to their context. But that also means that we have to build our large language learning models, which will have that kind of content at the back end. So the other aspiration is that can we have content which is being generated by the teachers themselves and being made available, and some kind of technology-enabled system which puts like these quality benchmarks. Maybe teachers are rating each other's content and that's automatically getting pushed up, right? Like, I know this is a bad example to give in the context of learning, but like how you have a Zomato which has a rating system where people are giving reviews, but I think the power is also that, you know, there's a lot of people feedback and reviews, which then determines the quality of content as well. So one aspiration is that teacher-generated content, a lot of content being made available, which is contextualized, relevant. But I think the second aspiration from an experience creating point of view is to really be able to create a community of practice of educators, which is enabled and facilitated by technology, which becomes a source for inspiration, which becomes a source for peer learning, which also becomes a source for recognition. I think, like, especially while working with educators in the government school system, one of their biggest needs is that they be seen, they be heard, they be validated for all the efforts that they are making. So could a technology platform move beyond just providing learning content to building communities which enable this peer learning, inspiration, recognition, motivation as well? So that's something that we are aspiring towards. And I'll pause with that.
Sounds good, Neha. Moving on to Priya. Priya, what are your thoughts?
Firstly, thank you, Dashra, for this opportunity. I echo with all my co-panelists. Before coming into sharing my challenges and what we are doing, I wanted to share what we're doing at Khabal Lahariya. In our 2-decade history, we have trained more than 400 plus rural women across a region called Bundelkhand, which is UP and MP, dark media pockets in journalism through our offline training. So Chambal Academy, which I'm talking about, which is our solution, is our new vertical, which we launched in 2022. It seeks to build on, amplify, and accelerate this impact with the use of technology. The idea was born when Kabal area, for example, when we were initially a newspaper, and when we switched to digital, we were not just able to increase the number of people we were able to reach from few thousands to millions, but also breaking many other barriers which we wanted to break, like literacy, reaching out to more interior pockets, etc. So what Chambal Academy is doing is training and equipping rural women and girls to engage in the digital public and be storytellers and journalists and be catalyst for change. Our mission is to build an online platform, an online learning space where women, especially rural women and girls can come. And this is being designed in a way adapting to their social and geographical needs and experiences. This is to ensure that their voice and presence of these rural girls and women from these marginalized dark pockets of India comes to the mainstream, and they also get to enjoy and explore the possibilities of digital world. So the first course definitely was like taking our online journalism course. So we launched a rural mobile journalism course, and like Neha was sharing, we also had like many challenges, like because converting something which is offline into an online was very challenging, especially since we are working with somebody who is rural and is having less experience in technology, and especially using technology for education. But we had we were able to navigate. We'll talk more about that. But we started with the pilot program, and it hit exactly when pandemic happened. And going online was in a way blessing, because if it was an offline training, we wouldn't have been able to do that. But during that pandemic time, we were able to train 270 young girls and women from across 3 states. We were able to do that because we were able to take this training online. Then from there, now we have reached a stage where we have trained more than 500 plus young girls, not just in these 2 states, but in 7 states, in UP, MP, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Haryana, Uttarakhand. So we were able to do that in this short time. I think it's because we were able to take this training into an online space. And the idea is not just making everybody journalists or storytellers, but the opening up this world of digital and this possibilities which is out there. And not just because we are in a time where like Neha was telling, we are competing with so much of digital content, not just digital content, misinformation, fake news, etc. So we need people who are more aware of these things. So how do you do that? So we created content around misinformation, media literacy, digital security, all that in this journey. Talking about the learning, since we work with very rural, marginalized audience, taking a rural girl or a woman out of a house and tell them we need to train them itself is a challenge. And from there, so we thought that instead of taking them out, we should take using the technology, we should take the education to them. So because of that, now in their free space, whenever the internet is there, whenever they were able to do our course. So adapting the technology to the rural need was very important. Understanding the bandwidth, how much of internet is available, how much is their bandwidth to even consume something which is on an online platform, to understand that. So that means can they actually watch something 15 minutes? Maybe not. It should be 8 minutes. So we designed the duration of each videos accordingly. And we can't have Zoom sessions like this. If I say that 3 to 4 p.m. is my session, there won't be internet, maybe there won't be electricity, maybe. Then how do you do that? So it should be content which is already there. That's what we did in Academy. It is already content created, curated in such a way that they can actually go through the course through the things. So this is another learning, and definitely, though it was envisioned as a online platform, very soon through our pilot itself, we understood it can't be complete online. So we switched to a hybrid platform. It was very important because of n number of reasons students might lag. Like in an offline training, maybe there is personal problems, there is other stuff where students lose it, and when they come back, they already see their peers, colleagues who are already ahead, maybe in module 3 or 4, and they feel that, oh, I can't match them, and they drop out. So we need to understand what is happening. So the touch points were very important. Inspiring them was very important. So we also do the similar thing of in the beginning, before introducing them to this platform, we have an offline session where we introduce them to our team and other resource people, so they get inspired and they get motivated to do the course. And throughout the session, we have like touch points with them to make sure their learnings are the correct. And the leverage of having a technology is in the back end, we can actually see the progress of the student. So where are they doing? What did they watch? How much did they watch? How much time are they spending on the platform? So these kind of data helps us to individually look at what our students are doing. So that is one more learning. And aspiration is definitely scale up. Right now, we are following an institution model, which means organizations, foundations are actually supporting us in running fellowship programs so that we can take our training to these audience. But we would like to reach in a stage we can actually scale up so that we can subsidize the course fees and take it to a larger number of rural audience. So that's our aspiration, and I'll stop.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that, Priya. I'd like to add a little bit about what we do at Let's Endorse. So we have built an Udyamita model of micro-entrepreneurship, and it is powered on the Uditi platform that we have developed. We tried to create a very comprehensive solution that could support an aspiring and existing micro or a nano entrepreneur throughout their journey of maturation in a period of 100 days. So we worked with state missions, with SIDBI, and in the last 24 months, we have been able to turn about 6,200 people into micro entrepreneurs, largely by capacity building, by readiness to entrepreneurship, and by unlocking credit under different government schemes and subsidies. So about 57 crore rupees were unlocked as part of different government schemes at less than 12% interest rate. So that we think is a win, because most of these schemes are meant for the people who we work with, but then because of their inability or lack of readiness to approach the bankers for these schemes, they are not able to leverage those, right? And most often, the targets lapse. So that is what happens. So our platform offers an end-to-end enablement, by building automated business plan, by providing recommendations on which credit scheme, which subsidy scheme is right for an individual, by offering them recommendations on skill training institutions, which bank branch should they go to. And over the last couple of years, we have also tried to deep dive into a couple of value chains, goatery and beekeeping, to make sure that the individual also gets linked into both backward and forward markets for sale of their products, because we do realize that the ultimate North Star metric for us is sustainable monthly incomes, right? So the key learning for us, from day one, which has been validated over a period of time, has been that you have to combine physical interaction and physical touch points with digital tools. There is no sort of substitute to phygital models, and hence the way the platform works is that we build capacities of our last mile NGO partners and the cadres, the field cadres, for using the technology for continuous handholding of the micro entrepreneurs. We have been iterating continuously. The platform continues to be a work in progress. User-centric design is something that we learned along the way, and we realized that for tech to be truly effective at the last mile, it must be super intuitive. It must have very simple interfaces, do just the thing that the user has downloaded it for, and caters to users from different, backgrounds. So vernacularization, speech-based, outputs are key. Right. So simplicity is the key. With respect to our aspirations for our solution, we really want to scale up. As echoing Neha, we want to integrate advanced AI for a more personalized support in order to also remove the bias in manual guidance or manual consultation. And we are already collaborating with governments for national entrepreneurship programs, but then we also want to build robust partnerships with financial institutions and market players for longer term success. Right. So that was a very interesting, round of deliberations. I'd like to summarize by saying that some of the key learnings that we derived from this panel was that, standardization, for quality and for standardization's sake, it is very important to, offer a blended sort of experience at the last mile. I believe that Ashish's organization has leveraged a lot from integration with, LMS, which has shown very direct, tangible results in terms of maintaining the turnaround times and, ensuring timeliness of delivery. Neha, also spoke about, whether you are thinking of building a solution at scale and whether it actually works at scale are two different things. That there also needs to be a very thorough design of the onboarding process, and the team, there should be enough technology bandwidth or, knowledge beforehand that there would be a need to debug a live app on the fly in order to not compromise with the user experience. Adoption runway is a reality. It takes both time and gestation, to make people adopt your app, and there has to be an absolute synchrony between platform, content, and operational strategy. From what Priya mentioned, who transitioned to online during pandemic, bandwidth considerations is very important in terms of both time, attention, and network availability, which also, buttresses the idea of offering self-paced content to the last mile users instead of, calling them at a time and, sharing a link with them to join and attend the sessions. And again, reinforcing the same point that placing the right offline touch points across the different stages of journey for both inspiration's sake as well as for continuous learning is also a key. Now, the aspirations, I think, are, for all the organizations are common, leveraging technology for more personalized support, how to create, a layer of cadres, facilitators, catalysts who can accelerate the journeys, of our respective users of technologies, and generally scaling up, building partnerships, institutional partnerships, in order to be able to grow fast and reach more communities in a smaller period of time. Right. So with that, we move on to our second question. So if you could share a key challenge that you've been trying to navigate about your particular tech-based solution, and also some insights on how you're planning to or are already addressing it. Right. So starting with Ashish again. Ashish. Ashish, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So in fact, Neha spoke during her pitch on the application. Here now, as an organization, we are navigating another tech solution. It's applications. The need of the applications is like because when you are supporting the mass entrepreneurship, when you have thousands volunteers with you, so how to connect to them, how to engage them? These are the certain challenges we have in front of us. Because we, as I mentioned, we are working in the 20 different centers. Like we have mentors in Odisha, Assam, Tamil Nadu. So how to connect them? So then with the help of our expert, and we analyze and we understand that there is a need to get everybody in the one platform and to engage them. So that's an application. So then we have started to develop the application. But now when we are developing the application, our applications, like which is more on the learning, networking, in that. So as we have a mentors and entrepreneurs, so we thought, let's develop the application first for a mentor. So the mentor, when they become an expert or they may come on the application, so they can engage, they can share their success stories. There will be cross mentoring. There will be, discussion among the mentors. That was the idea, and then slowly we'll develop to the entrepreneurs application. But when we develop the mentor applications, getting a few expert mentors together, to getting their inputs, to getting their suggestion, we have started to developing the application. And today, if you see, so we have that solution with us. But it is in the, as we are we are talking about the pilot or navigations. So it is in a very pilot stage. Out of this 18,000 mentors, we have around 300, 400 mentors on our applications, and we are just trying to do some experiment with them. We are engaging with them. We are putting some content. There is a exchange of the thoughts. There is a exchange of the case studies. That's happening now. But of course, there are certain technical glitches we are facing that, and our team, we have a dedicated team for the technology. They are trying to solve that problem, to rectify that problem, and slowly we move to the different application, which is the entrepreneurs. So the another application which we have launched now, entrepreneurs application. So in the entrepreneurs application, another challenge is the language, because in the mentor application we have a English language, but in the entrepreneurs we have across the country. So initially now our applications is in the English. Now we are engaging the entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs, that is very I can say it's not in the pilot also. We are doing a brainstorming with that applications and what idea or thought is there. So in the entrepreneur journey or in the enterprise journey, you required the networking, you required the market. So through this application, our vision is there. So all entrepreneurs, what we created around 45,000. They will be the part of our application, and they will do the network. They will do the business through app. Like somebody from the Tamil Nadu is doing some garment business, so he can exchange his product to the the NCR entrepreneurs. So that way, that is our visions, and through these visions, entrepreneurs also agree for this. They are able to they are able to accept this new change, because certainly when we have an application, there are certain issues like in the mobile. Again, what is the capacity, what is the pace available. So that also we rectified, but our community, especially mentor and entrepreneur, they are eagerly waiting for this application. So tomorrow we can facilitate the dialogue and engage all our community member. That is the point. And coming to the like now how to address this, because as we have a mass community for the mentors and entrepreneurs, so now we have a certain we have introduced or we have announced some brand ambassador here among our beneficiaries. Like from the mentors, we have announced few mentors are the brand ambassador, and in another hand, from the entrepreneurs, we announced few brand ambassador for this particular project. So what is their role? So we are taking or we are conducting the session, the very focus group session with the minimum group like 10 to 15 people in each location. Those are key mentors or those are key entrepreneurs. So our brand ambassador, giving a thought process, why it is important, why it is required, that way. So we are just trying to convince through our focus group discussion, and this 10 to 15 people in each location, so they will take care of their respective location, and they will promote that application among the community. So that's how we have started a few brainstorming session with the brand ambassador. Thank you. Hope I answered the questions.
Thank you, Ashish. Moving on to Neha.
I think for this question, Monica, I will give an example of a different learning solution that we've been working on. So we've developed a game called Career Quest. And the idea behind developing that digital game was that we wanted to make career exploration available for young learners at scale, because career counseling is not that easily available. We don't have enough trained counselors. So the idea behind the game, and also talking about the whole inclusion piece, the idea behind the game was that it has 8 characters which have been who go through a story where they have to take different career decisions at different points in time. So the game is essentially that you're helping that character solve a career dilemma that they might have. It is available in different languages. And for the stories, we actually used stories of our learners that we've heard over a period of time. So we had someone who is an ITI, who's interested in dancing, but their parents don't want them to pursue dancing. They're a 12th class dropout. We had a transgender character who wanted to pursue sports. and was figuring out how to kind of navigate that journey. So in the context of that game, one of the challenges for us has been that, again, we've positioned it as a game. And it is again competing with, and as soon as you say game, and when you take it to say learners who are like 14, 15, 16 years of age, for them game means PUBG. For them game means Temple Run. So how do you kind of design for learning while keeping it fun? Looking at what our audience is already kind of engaging with. I think that's been a challenge that we're trying to crack. And we recently again had conversations on looking at the next phase of development for that game. And somebody who has worked in games before was telling us, that you have to keep it at an optimum level of fun and an optimum level of challenge. So that that interest is sustained and your learner wants to kind of keep pursuing the game forward. So we're also trying to kind of find that balance between fun and challenge, and especially for something like career decision making, what is that optimum challenge that you pitch your content at is something that we're trying to figure. And I think related to that is that while we have designed content keeping it very inclusive, for example, the transgender character that I was talking about, but our data and analytics show that a lot of kids are not engaging with the transgender character because maybe they don't find it relatable. We've also had insights from our feedback that characters which are dark-skinned are not getting played as much as light-skinned characters. So I think, like, how do you then design where you want to nudge them towards exploring things which are different while keeping it relatable? And how do you do it when you have like a technology solution? How much input do you give when you know that you have to keep it short, you have to keep it bite-sized as well? So those are other things that we are kind of grappling with right now. The third, I think, challenge is that for us now, as we talk about technology products becoming a core part of program design, I think success metrics need to be expanded to include many more metrics. Like earlier, we would say that, okay, if you're talking about career exploration, my learners, if earlier they knew about 5 options, now they know about 10 options. They have clarity on how they're going to pursue their pathway. I'll go and do a survey in the classroom and, that'll be a success metric for me. But when it comes to technology product, success metrics like how many returning users do you have, how much time are they spending on the platform, whether they're completing their journey or not, where are they getting stuck? I think it becomes important to consider all those metrics as well. And I think just building on what Priya was also saying, right? Like if you know that your learner will get the phone only for 15 minutes at one go, then what is that learning that you want to design which will give a complete experience in that 15 minutes, but also leave them curious enough to want to come back and want to explore more? So those are some of the things that we are also grappling with. And I think the last one is just upskilling in the team, right? Like when we are talking about technology products, so even if it is my facilitator who is going to the schools and introducing the game, they need to be able to have the technical skills to come back and look at the dashboard of the game at the back end to say that what is the engagement rate looking like, which character is getting played, which school is showing more uptake. So then they can design their visits, their inputs accordingly. They should feel comfortable about navigating technology. And if someone comes and says, ki ye game chal nahi rahi hai, instead of saying like, I don't know what is happening, or, restart, which is the easiest thing to kind of go back to, how do they build their skills to also navigate some of these technological challenges, which might be new for them as well. So I think those are some of the challenges for us in the context of this game specifically.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing that, Neha. Moving on to Priya. We actually have a bunch of questions from the FAQs, so just trying to wrap this up sooner. Yeah, Priya, over to you.
For us, I feel rural realities are very complex when it comes to tech. For example, we gave them an educational platform. We gave them the tech. We bought them online. But in reality, the offline and online is so overlapping. For example, the person who might be trolling them or messaging them online will be someone they will be meeting when they are traveling in a bus stop or in a market. So the online person who is trolling them is not someone invisible, but someone they can understand, recognize, etc. And they are also recognized. Sometimes it's also like, do you have internet? You put the course there. We had cases where there was flood happening in Bihar, and our students from Bihar cohort were like lagging really back because there was flooding, there was internet issues, and sitting in Delhi, we were not even aware that something like this is happening in Bihar because such stories never came and reached us. Then there is also like caste, gender, patriarchy. These are the realities of our students where we are actually introducing this platform, this solution. So how do you recognize each of it? How we are trying to navigate each one of it, I'll try to explain. Like, for example, though we are trying to make journalists and storytellers from rural India, we understand before getting into any of those, they should understand their context. They should understand what is gender, caste, patriarchy, so that they see and navigate through the course, through the curriculum with this lens. So the initial 2 modules is just to create that base. And like my co-panelists said, it will take time because they are getting introduced to a new platform. So the initial time is the most struggling time for them. So we give them the time so that they can navigate. And then once they get an idea about it, becomes a habit. They know that, okay, their red button is moving forward, means they are progressing. And then sometimes they reach out to us and they're like, "Mera red button aage nahi ja raha hai." So they get that idea, experience this thing, and we also put a local coordinator who can support them through that kind of navigation. Another thing is definitely the digital security part, because we are also responsible. Most of our students become first-time mobile users. We give them mobile phones, we give them internet recharges so that they can do the course, but also comes with, they are just not going to use it for our course, right? They have n number of possibilities. So we designed a digital security toolkit specifically for rural audience. So we are talking about a context also where misinformation, fake news, etc. is not flagged in rural India as much as it is being in urban India. So we also integrated a course which is about misinformation, and so that at least when they consume things, they are aware everything they consume, even from media, need not be news, need not be correct information. So that awareness is created. Their security, how can you be safe online? Because our students many a times have to hear that jab se mobile mil gaya bigad gayi. So from there, how can we make sure this is a safe space for our students? So that's why not just a journalism course, but around that journalism course, we created this media literacy, misinformation modules, etc., to make a safe, secure space for them online. Because one challenge we are facing right now, more than getting informed and educated, everyone aspire to get some kind of job at the end of these kind of courses. So end mein mujhe kya milega? So that is a challenge which we are having, and we are trying to navigate. We are still looking for partners, and where we can actually send our students from our alumni to work with them. Yes, researchers, photographers, and storytellers and documenters. Yeah, I will stop there. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Priya. For us, it has largely been ensuring the accessibility and usability of our apps, right? For largely 2 kinds of user. One's with limited digital literacy, which is most of our users, and the second is with limited internet connectivity, again a significant proportion of our users. Particularly when we talk of goat rearers and beekeepers, they are, at least the beekeepers, are located in very deeper pockets of forests and rural areas, very fragmented, but very smaller communities in different hamlets, right? So some of the ways in which we have tried to address is largely through vernacularization. We use Bhashini extensively for speech recognition and text to speech, speech to text kind of use cases. We have been successful to a certain degree in building hyperlocal context using AI by developing our own RAG models, which has continued to make things relevant and contextual. But then in low or no network settings, even if we are trying to package that trained model into the mobile app, it is consuming a lot of space. So that continues to be a challenge, usage of AI for a low network setting. So we are trying to navigate this by packaging some more commonly used modules into the app, which then synchronizes and gets updated whenever there is network connectivity. So using a lot of asynchronous methodologies to make sure that people get access to the modules that they are most interested in. So I mean, trying to summarize, the discussion of this part. So, in terms of challenges, Ashish mentioned that engagement and continuous connection of thousands of users on the app has been a challenge for which the team is continuously seeding content and thoughts on the platform. Language is largely a challenge because the larger vision of BYST is to create, a community, cultivate a network by breaking the language barriers. So trade, information, all such kind of facilitation can happen within the community. For that, they are creating focus group discussions with community ambassadors offline, just to be able to see how that works and how can they simulate the same experience online. For Neha, different games that she has, like the one particular game that she spoke about, has got different characters and their respective story arcs. The very positioning of this app as a game is leading to a dichotomy, for designing of learning while keeping it as a fun experience. There is a problem of relatability with certain characters, as she mentioned. So how is she incorporating nudges and other concepts of behavioral economics for better engagement, so to say. She also believes that the success metrics of program delivery and performance should also now include platform performance and user activity metrics. And the team continuously, the team which is going and interfacing with the users needs to be upskilled in terms of their own understanding of the app. For Priya, she's navigating through the complex rural realities, and her attempt is to ensure that there is a common understanding of fundamentals which is instilled in every individual in the beginning of their navigational journey. She's also working on building digital security related awareness, and the struggle with expectation management of people, which is mujhe kya milega at the end of their journeys, is something that she's still working out. Right. So with that, I think we can take a few questions which are there on the chat. I know that Neha has already answered a few of those. So Ashish and Priya, the first question which is there on the chat is, what is the feedback mechanism from both the creator and the receiver ends that you have built into your user flows, and how are you reviewing this in a real time, the feedback loops?
Yeah. So let me answer about our tech solution. So generally, feedback is a very important sessions in the entire training. So always we take the feedback from our participants, and we always see how we capture that feedback in our enhancement. For example, now when we are talking about our entrepreneurship, so there is the trend of the digital market. So everybody want to do the business of their marketing on a digital platform. So what is exactly digital marketing and what? So that when we got the feedback or when we got the suggestions from our beneficiary, we have developed. So now the digital marketing session, it's a part of our modules. So that's how. So now everybody's talking about the ESG, like how you will you will have a ESG in your business, and how you are expecting the ESG from the micro entrepreneurs. So that also we are now, as a BYST, we are discussing with the expert, and we are just trying to incorporate with that. And there is another trend is there, decent work training. Like when you are doing a business, you have to do the business in a proper the rules and regulations. What are the decent work trainings methods are there? What is the best practices of that? That also we are just trying to develop that. So slowly we'll incorporate with our existing model. So feedback is a very important mechanism in the training, not only from the participant, but the feedback is required from the facilitator, trainer, participants, and the expert. What generally we have expert in the ecosystem.
Sure. Thank you, Ashish. Priya, any points on this particular
Yeah.
question?
Feedbacks are very important, and we have tried to incorporate that in our courses also. Like I said, we started with journalism course, and then during the pilot itself, students started asking, but मगर ये fake news कैसे है? ये तो like a familiar news channel had shared it. How can that be a fake news? So we felt that it's much more complex. So we started updating our content. So that's how we created other courses and toolkits around it, so that it's become a supporting thing. Yeah, so these are the things which we have done to incorporate. And another thing is definitely the internship part, because in an online space they're actually learning, it's actually theory, but what about the practical part? So we integrated like an internship to a program after collecting feedback from the students.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for that. There are a couple of more questions with respect to, inclusivity of our approach and, how can we overcome the bias which AI is showing and, appropriate use of technology. I think we can take those offline in the chats. Just wanted to conclude by saying that this has been a very power-packed, session of deliberations and discussions. And on behalf of my co-panelists, I'd like to extend a very warm gratitude to the Dasra and Call for Solutions team for giving us the platform for addressing this key subject. Over to you, Tanya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, and thank you, everyone. This was super insightful. Thank you for being candid about your challenges, innovations that you've tried to address those challenges, and sharing your aspirations with us. I think through this conversation, and of course, over the past 1.5 years of our engagement, you certainly have demystified tech for me. To be able to look at it as an enabler and not like a complex, untamable giant that I used to make, of it earlier, before understanding some of this work. And thank you so much, and congratulations on all the great work. Before we move on to the next panel, we will be taking a quick 2-3 minutes break, and let's get back at 4 p.m. For the next session, which is, where the practitioners are going to talk about and share some of their learnings from government engagement work that they are doing. I would suggest and request if you can use this short break to share about the webinar on social media, and also share about your insights, some aha moments that you may have had. And please feel free to use the hashtags that we have been pasting on chat, and we'll be pasting again. Please do stay connected with us. We will be starting at 4, as I said. See everyone. Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying connected with us, and glad to have anyone who has joined us now. Before we begin this panel, requesting for the house rules to be pasted on chat for those who have joined us now to quickly just go through these. Um, Also want to say that please feel free to use the chat feature, which I know you've been doing till now, to share your thoughts, suggestions, and ask questions to other panelists. Please also note that we have English to Hindi interpretation feature available, and the steps for this are pasted on chat. Yes. Moving on, let's start with the third panel for the day, which is, as you can see, nurturing government partnerships to amplify impact. In order to take us forward with this discussion and conversation, I would like to welcome Ms. Angel Mohan from Pratham Education Foundation. Angel leads partnerships and program development at Pratham. With a passion for cultivating strategic alliances, she collaborates with diverse stakeholders to drive innovation and expand the organization's reach. Thank you so much for joining us, Angel. Glad to have you with us. Over to you now.
Thanks, Tanya. Welcome everyone to the third panel for today, which is on nurturing government partnerships to amplify impact. I think it's an honor to gather with such a distinguished group of leaders and experts, where we are all committed to empower our young people through the collaborative efforts. It's quite a task, as you know, in this entire ecosystem, to build a relationship with the government. And I think it's extremely crucial to do that, and the effort cannot be overstated. So the goal of the panel is to understand from the practitioners the strategies and the methods that work for designing a very sustainable engagement with the government while centering young people's agendas. We aim to gain insights into the key challenges that you all might face and how they have navigated them. To share these insights, we have a diverse panel of experts. So let me introduce them to you. Mr. Arjun Kapoor, Ms. Shivi Rathi, and Ms. Swati Mohan. So Mr. Arjun Kapoor is the program director, and he's a senior research fellow at the Center for Mental Health Law and Policy, Indian Law Society. He co-leads Outlive, a youth suicide prevention program addressing urban youth suicide in Delhi, Mumbai, and Pune. He also co-leads Engage, an adolescent suicide prevention program that trains school teachers to identify, support, and refer at-risk adolescents in Chhattisgarh in collaboration with the Chhattisgarh government. Hi, Arjun. So Ms. Shivi Rathi, our second panelist, is the project lead at Alhambra Education Foundation. She leads Alhambra's government engagement vertical and has worked on the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum implemented for the Delhi government. Hi, Shivi. Ms. Swati Mohan is the director for programs at Antarang Foundation. She leads the organization's efforts to bridge the gap between education and employment by creating an ecosystem for well-informed transitions and enhancing student aspirations in collaboration with various state and local governments. The first that we shall start with is this entire aspect and nature of government engagement. So if we could start with all the panelists sharing a little bit about what defines your government engagement strategy and what methods of engagement have worked for you. And if you could also elaborate on what does success mean to you in terms of this government engagement, that would be great as well. Over to you. I think we can start with Arjun and then you can go across.
Okay, how much time do I have, Angel? 5 minutes?
6 minutes.
6 minutes, yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Angel, and also thank you to Dasra and the Call for Solutions program for this opportunity. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So before I answer that question, I'll just give a bit of context about the work that I do and the organization that I represent. So CMHLP focuses on mental health and suicide prevention Our work is structured across three pillars, if I may use that phrase. The first is implementation research, where we design, develop, and implement evidence-based mental health and suicide prevention programs in the community, and also scale them up across different regions and different population groups. The second pillar is law and policy reform. So we actually work with both government and non-government stakeholders for reforming policies and legislation on mental health and suicide prevention in India. And the third component is capacity building, which actually focuses on building capacities of both community stakeholders, health systems, and government stakeholders in providing rights-based, intersectoral, and community-based mental health care and suicide prevention support. Also, just to sort of lay down the context, mental health and suicide prevention in India currently is of course, it's a developing space, a developing sector, but is still not a governance priority in the conventional sense as we would see with other sectors in India. So a lot of our work is sort of embedded in this context where we're constantly having to, of course, emphasize and spotlight the importance and the urgency of addressing mental health and suicide prevention as a governance issue and increasing government participation, both as a provider of governance services, but also in terms of facilitating and collaborating and helping civil society and other stakeholders to sort of consolidate their expertise and skills in this space. The work we do kind of with government particularly largely is we've adopted about 3 to 4 strategies. The first is to sort of look at government as a partner in some of the implementation research work that we do. So for instance, we have community-based mental health or suicide prevention projects, which are also implementation research projects, where we are collecting evidence, studying the impact and the effectiveness of these interventions, where government comes on board as a collaborator and as a partner in collecting this evidence and sort of facilitating implementation of these programs. The second is where the government, again, is an active partner in scaling up interventions specifically. So for instance, you mentioned Engage, the Adolescent Suicide Prevention Program. Now that's an example of a project where we've actively collaborated with the Department of Health and School Education and the SCRT in Chhattisgarh to deliver an online course, e-learning course to school teachers in 3 districts to train them as gatekeepers where they can identify adolescents who are at risk of suicide in their classrooms. And the third is, of course, providing technical support to government, which is actually providing them the expertise and skills that we've developed over a period of time in planning, implementation, and evaluation of mental health policy programs and schemes. So, for instance, we've actively worked with the governments of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh in developing capacities of government stakeholders to, say, implement the Mental Health Care Act using a rights-based approach. So a lot of our work is also focused on providing technical support to governments, both at the central and the state level, in effective planning and implementation of mental health policy, legislation, and programs. Now, in terms of what strategies have worked and what are some of our learnings, I think the first thing to understand is that much as one would want a lot of certainty, engaging with government is neither an art nor a complete science. You know, you're constantly trying to grapple with the right kind of strategy, largely because the bureaucracy in our country itself is so structured and layered, and it differs from state to state, from district to district. So even at a district level or a sub-district level, you'd find that the administration functions as a unit. Often they have their own culture and way of working, their own hierarchies, their own dynamics. How state and district level governments interact with each other is another factor. And of course, how the federal or the central government and state governments interact with each other is another dynamic. So I think the first thing to understand is that it's such a diverse space, and one has to really understand the nuances of how some of these bureaucratic mechanisms work. The second thing I would say is I think a lot of government engagement is relationship building. And I think the first thing to do is to build your own credibility as an organization and your own expertise in your work. Because when you're working with government, you also have to build trust and establish the fact that you have the expertise and skills to be collaborating with government and working at that level. So I think building credibility and trust as an organization becomes extremely critical. The third thing that I would say is that, again, with policymakers, it's especially in the context of mental health and suicide prevention, we found that either you find policymakers who have a lot of political will because in some way or the other they've been impacted by mental health related stories, either in their personal lives or people that their loved ones or people in their social networks. So you find that getting uptake and building political will with such policymakers is a lot more easier, especially when you emphasize the importance of a subject like mental health and suicides. But the real challenge lies with everybody else, where, like I said in the beginning, mental health is not seen as a governance priority. And I think their research, data, evidence become very, very important in terms of highlighting how important it is for a government to be addressing this, to really magnify the problem at a public level, at a public health level, and also, of course, recommend strategies and solutions which are feasible, which are scalable, which are cost effective. I think these are things that governments often, policymakers often look for. I think the other bit is in terms of how you do this engagement itself. Working with government is never easy. I think you have to go through the grind, literally waiting outside offices for that one appointment for 4 to 5 hours and not even knowing whether you're going to get to meet the policymaker or not. But really being consistent and resilient with your engagement, I think, is very, very important. And showing that sort of enthusiasm and that constant sort of engagement also builds to your credibility and also the relationship with the policymaker that you're working with. I think some simple strategies such as how to present evidence and data. So for instance, when I go and meet a policymaker, they'll invariably want a one-pager which summarizes the importance of the problem, the significance, what are you suggesting, and what are the implications for the government. And most often this implication is, okay, are you asking us for money or not? So if you've got money and you've got a funder backing you, great. It becomes more difficult when you're partnering with government, where you're expecting some kind of financial investment. But I think skills like those become extremely important and critical. So I'll stop here and we'll come back to expand more in the next round, because I think my 6 minutes are up.
Thanks, Arjun. Shivi, if you want to go next and just elaborate on that, that would be great.
Sure, I can. Thank you so much, Angel and Arjun. I think our smiles when Arjun said that, waiting out of offices and just being consistent is the most important thing showed that I think we're all able to relate to that so much at so many other levels. Before I begin with what strategies do work with me, I'll just take you through what we actually do as an organization. So we work with the students to help them make informed career choices while they are in schools. And we do this through our flagship program called Career Shala. It's a program where students explore careers, they explore the world of careers, they experience some of these careers and their lives in those careers. They make a choice that is aligned to their interests, their skills, and they plan for their careers. And it's the entire program is implemented by government teachers in the government schools. And currently we're working in a few districts and a state. I think I was able to relate to Arjun when he said most of the work with government is around just building those relations and making them strong so that they're able to trust you, trust the credibility of the organization. And some of the strategies that we use to build on those relations is, one, involving the government stakeholders as much as possible in your program. So if we're designing a program for a particular district, so we have a flagship program, we do customize it like according to the need of the state or the district, and involving those government stakeholders in co-creating the program, say co-creating the session plans, helps instill a sense of accountability and investment in the system. They feel like it is their own program. They have also put in effort in making the program. It is not only the organization that is trying to drive it. I think if sometimes when it is not possible, again, as Arjun said, that all governments and all districts work at different, their working styles is different. Like to build relations, there's no one fixed strategy to do that. And if that is not possible, then I think just involving them into collaborative decision making is something, or just taking continuous feedback from them on your program, on the design that you have, is something that always works for us, because then they feel that, okay, it's not them who are driving the program, we are the key decision makers, and that actually just does it with the government. The second thing that I feel is very critical is just apart from involving them, like just engaging them also throughout the program is very important. So inviting the government officials to actually experience the program, experience how the program supports the targeted group. It can be as simple as inviting them to a classroom for a class that a teacher is taking, or inviting them. So we invite them to showcases that happen, and showcases are where the students present their learnings of the entire program. They present the choices that they have made or what they've learned through the program. So that kind of helps them to just highlight, like it highlights the potential and the impact of the program in front of them, and provides them those evidences apart from what data can provide. So that's why we always make it a point to invite government officials to our classrooms, our programs, our small activities that we do with the students. This I also feel serves a multiple objective, as it not only helps them see the program and the impact that the program is trying to create, it also helps them to connect with the ground better. They are able to understand what kind of challenges the students are actually facing, because that's when they're having conversations with the students. Yeah, I think these two are the major things that I feel are important while engaging and involving the government stakeholders. One thing that is very core to me that I believe is very important is just our target audience is the students, but the teachers are the ones who drive the program. And understanding and being empathetic to the teachers, understanding and accepting their challenges also helps us build better relations with the teachers. And that in turn helps to build a better acceptance of the program also in general. And that is why that shows that, like showing them that they've been able to create that impact, they've been able to drive their motivation is important, which in turns I feel that results in better advocacy, examples for nurturing relationships with the system. Yeah, so I think I would like to rest. Swati.
Swati, how much does this relate to you, and what do you think about the kind of work that Antarang has been doing with the government?
Yeah, I think a lot of things that I resonate with quite a bit. I think to start with what Arjun was sharing, just in the space of, I think starting by mapping who really are your stakeholders. And at Antarang, I think what we've seen is that it's important to map it at every level to say who are everybody in the government system that we would like to engage with. So in our case, for example, we have headmasters, teachers, district level officials, block level officials, state, national, and seeing who is everybody who's kind of involved in the process. And I think the aim is to build multiple champions within the system for the cause by itself, because what we've seen is that people keep moving within the system across states, within the state, within the district as well. So it's important that at any point of time, whatever you're doing, the cause doesn't really die out because of the people who are moving in and out of the system. So I think that's been one key learning for us. And I think very similar to what Shivi said, how to really do that is one, of course, you have those review meetings where you're discussing about the progress of the intervention, about what's worked, what's not worked. But I think really also involving them in decision making, getting them on the ground, getting them to see the program in action as well. I think that's also very critical, much like Shivi mentioned. I think the other thing that we've also realized, it's important to understand and align solutions to what is a government priority or a policy that already exists. Because I think it's important for the government, it's important to show the government how what you're trying to do is aligned to what they are also trying to achieve. And it's nothing very different from what they're already trying to do. but parallelly also trying to show how is it different from any of the existing interventions that the government is already doing, and acknowledge the fact that they are also doing a lot of great work in that space, right? So how to not overlap with what they're already doing, leverage what they already have and build on that in the work that you're doing. I think that's the second thing that we've seen. So no duplication of resources that should happen at any point in time. The third thing, much like again Arjun mentioned, is that they're very interested in knowing. Nowadays, data is something that governments are really excited about. I think gone are the times where they would only ask, okay, kitne sessions hue, what are the inputs that go into, or how many students attended. I think they're very keen to know what happened as a result of everything that you've done. What is an output? What's an outcome that's happening? So I think knowing how to gather all of that data and showcase it to them in a way that's digestible for them, and they can also use it forward. I think that's really important as well. So I think that's also something that we have learned overall. What's not worked for us as well in this process, I think every official, when you go to them, wants to know ki aapko mere se kya chahiye at the end of the day. So I think having a very clear ask to them, saying that this is what I need your opinion on, or this is the decision that I would like to discuss with you, and also knowing what to discuss with whom at what level is also very critical. So that's something that's not worked. I mean, when I don't have a clear ask, it doesn't really work. And second is, it doesn't work if you're only trying to push something top down or bottom up. So just making sure that you're engaging at every level is really critical. I think to your second question on how do you measure the success of government engagement overall, it's something that we've been actually deliberating about quite a bit, because it's such a soft thing to really think about, and how to measure it is very difficult. So I think for us, to just define it broadly, I think when we are able to solve the problem together and integrate the whole solution in their business as usual, I think that's what really means as success for us in the entire government engagement ecosystem, which defines that it has become sustainable in some form or the other. So even if I exit tomorrow, the program or the intervention by itself is going to continue in the ecosystem. So, I mean, it can be measured in a lot of ways. So what we have done at Antarang is we've defined something called a sustainability matrix, where we've identified to say, for us as an organization, what are all the different domains that talk about and which talk about sustainability, and how can they progress across different levels. So that's how we've kind of defined it. So to give an example, one of the domains that we have is called just government resources, where it could be just people, it could be funding, like Arjun was mentioning, which is very tough to get the government to do any kind of funding, but I think just resources. So at a level 1, it could mean that there is no funding, there's no people that the government is kind of willing to put into the intervention. And as it progresses into level 5, they have a particular department that's assigned to kind of work with you, or some part of the resources that they've unlocked from either their existing budgets, or they've managed to secure some of those funds or enable some of those funds from their different line items. So that's how we've kind of defined them. And what we've realized is that it's not necessary that every government enters at level 1. And across every domain, they may enter at different points in time. But as long as they're all kind of slowly progressing towards what is at level 5, what's level 5 for us, I think that's something that we've tried to kind of define what successful government engagement means for us. More and more that we're working with states, I think we found it very intriguing, but very interesting to kind of define it for ourselves. Thank you.
So even at Pratham, we have seen how the nature of engagement becomes different. So, and most of y'all, you all spoke about the building of this relationship. What do you guys think should be some recommendations or some insights to how we can facilitate this relationship between the government, youth in the communities, and civil society? If you guys want to take some examples and the learnings that I've got from that, I think that'd be great as well. Maybe if Arjun, you want to go again, then we can do the same.
Yeah, thanks for that, Angel. I just wanted to pick up from what Swati was saying about aligning with government priorities. I think that's a really important point, because if you can demonstrate to government or policymakers that your proposal or your program or your idea is something that falls within their mandate, it becomes a lot more easy to convince them. It's not the ticket to convince them, but it can be a lot more easier to convince them about the importance of picking something up. And now there are, of course, these are more strategic things, but for instance, sustainable development goals is the new buzzword, right? So there are some things which you mention and it turns on the light bulb, and okay, there is a connection which has been made. I think another way, at least from our experiences of mental health and suicide prevention, is also facilitating that engagement between lived experiences and amplifying those voices, because there's nothing like hearing a lived experience account of an issue which affects everybody at an emotional level. But because of the environment and society that we live in, there is never that space created for people to talk about it openly. And I've in my experience seen policymakers, some of them who have had an experience with mental health or suicide, really light up and instantly connect with some of these stories and these issues, and that triggers stories for themselves also. So I think storytelling in itself is a very, very important, and I think an underutilized tool in facilitating that engagement between government and civil society and people with lived experiences, or people who are experiencing problems related to governance issues. The other thing I just wanted to highlight in terms of facilitating this engagement, I think this can happen in multiple levels. So, for instance, our law and policy frameworks themselves provide for mechanisms through which citizens and civil society can engage with government. So, for instance, under the 74th Amendment in the Constitution, which sets up urban local governance bodies and municipal corporations, you have something called ward committees, right? Where citizens can become active members of ward committees to amplify issues that a community might be experiencing at an urban level. Similarly, you will find with panchayats and gram panchayats or gram sabhas, these are spaces where people can actively have the space to actually bring up issues which affect them, and then that feeds into how panchayats then develop village development plans and how they activate their institutional mechanisms. So I think, especially coming from the context of mental health and suicide prevention, these are spaces or mechanisms which have not been activated. And I feel there's a lot of scope to facilitate engagement of civil society and organizations. There are some legislation, say, for instance, the Mental Health Care Act, which sets up what we call the mental health review boards, which are basically district level tribunals to ensure that treatment or mental health care treatment provided in hospitals is rights based, right? And if there is a rights violation happening, then you can go to the review board and get your redressal for the rights violation. Now, very interestingly, the mental health review boards in India under the Mental Health Care Act actually have people with lived experience, or mandate that people with lived experience or caregivers should be a part of these review boards, which are making these decisions. And that's the case with the state mental health authority as well. So these are mechanisms which are actively, which are sort of spaces where people can actively engage in decision making. And these are mechanisms which are provided in law and policy. The second thing that I would say, and I think this also ties in with what Shivi and Swati were also saying, is that often policymakers will ask you, "Acha, to mujhse kya chahiye," right? But I think another approach is also, and this is especially for organizations which are, say, starting off and are looking for partnerships with governments and don't have those partnerships, is to actually go to government and say, "How can we help you? This is our expertise. These are our skill sets. This is the work that we have done. And this is, all of this is aligned with your area of governance or your mandate or your policy, program, scheme, whatever. How is it that we can come and support you in strengthening the implementation of your program? Can we come on board as a development partner? Can we give you feedback on how to improve this?" So there are various ways in which organizations can partner with governments, and so the question is also being proactive, because government also looks for these partnerships, because even government also understands that organizations and civil society bring a certain amount of experience and expertise which they might not necessarily have all the time. So sometimes it's good to even put yourself out there and say, "Hey, how can I help you? And let's figure a way around this." The other thing I think is really one has to really focus on capacity building, and this is where I'll also bring in the role of young people specifically. So, for instance, at CMHLP, we run a youth advocacy fellowship. It's called the Outlets Youth Advocacy for Suicide Prevention Fellowship, where we are actively training and mentoring youth advocates now across 8 cities in India, both Tier 1 and Tier 2, to engage with policymakers to nudge them to develop policy interventions and solutions for preventing youth suicides in their community, right? So now, for instance, this fellowship program is structured over 7 to 8 months, and the youth advocates are first of all provided training in understanding mental health and suicide prevention as a policy issue. The problem is that law and policy in our country, the way it's framed, is so inaccessible to the ordinary citizen that it takes, even for us people working in this space, it takes a lot of reading and learning and understanding to decode these frameworks. So I think one very important aspect is to decode this, demystify it, put it in a language that the ordinary citizen, especially a young person, can understand, and then build their skills to actually go and do what we're discussing right here, right? Which is to go and talk to a policymaker, make that presentation, write that report, make a policy brief, know how to make that elevator pitch in 5 minutes, how to like really hit the nail on the head and focus on what you need to be, because beyond 5 minutes, you will not get time with a policymaker, especially a high level policymaker, right? So how do you make yourself impactful in those 5 minutes? So I think building these kinds of capacity building programs where young people specifically, and I know for a fact that young people are very keen on understanding how to navigate the law policy framework, to engage with policymakers, because they have a lot of ideas. They have some amazing ideas of what government can do, but there are no pathways and channels and mechanisms for them to be able to do that or to develop the skills to do that. So I think that's where we can play a lot of role, not just for young people, but even smaller organizations or organizations that are starting off in this space, to transfer some of that knowledge and those skills. And the last bit, and I'll close with this, is facilitating more coordination or alliances in civil society itself, right? So having groups or communities of practice where you are, say, addressing a specific issue, for instance, in this case, mental health, or say the implementation of a particular legislation or policy. Build an alliance group, build an advocacy group, which can then actively work with government across geographical regions, have a common unified purpose or agenda, identify a set of activities which can be, advocacy activities which you can pursue with government, invite policymakers to those spaces, have those consultations, those panel discussions, show those stories, those films. I think once you start doing this as a matter of practice, you'll find that even policymakers will start opening up to issues which they probably would not have. And also then something will emerge out of that. You will have some kind of collaboration, some kind of partnership, some kind of engagement, relationship building, which will emerge out of that. So I'll stop here.
Thanks, Arjun. A lot of relevant and important points that you've shared. Shivi, you have worked Alomora as well very closely with the Delhi government also. Do you see something very similar? What are some of the learnings that you've seen that affect and can improve this facilitation among partners and communities?
I think what can affect these relationships and how these relationships can be meaningfully facilitated is just keeping your mission at the core. Even if there is alignment at the mission level and you're aligned at the mission level, then the misalignment at a programmatic level can be kept aside if you're true to your mission, is what I feel. So just the sole focus on mission, if the sole focus is on the mission, then I think the logistical and operational challenges of working together and organizations collaborating together, just the credit taking things, if that can be kept aside, I feel that a meaningful relationship and engagement within the organizations can be facilitated. Again, like how I said, if we are able to create a joint program with the government, can two organizations create a joint program together, which which are towards a similar mission, but it's a newer, like it's a enhanced version of their own programs. Is also a way to look at a meaningful relationship between organizations.
Got it. Swati, you had also mentioned about building multiple champions in the ecosystem and your metrics, seeing how we're getting them together. So already you are doing it. So maybe you can just elaborate a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so at Antarang, we also run career readiness initiatives across different governments, and we're currently in 5 states. And I think what we've recognized as an organization is we just cannot be everywhere and trying to solve the problem everywhere. And it's just too big a problem for one organization to be solved. And what we've realized is that partnerships is a really great way to kind of scale the solution to the problem by itself. And the way we identify partners is one, either they have a similar focus area or they have a similar demographic that they kind of operate in. And this is a problem that they would like to solve, or they have complementary offerings overall. So for example, if I am offering a career readiness programs in schools, which is helping them to identify what's their interest, what is their aptitude, explore different career options. If there is a partner who's able to unlock experiential learning opportunities for the students or provide them, say, an internship, an apprenticeship, or a visit to an industry, it'll be great to partner with another organization on it versus set that up from scratch for ourselves as an organization. And in fact, in a lot of states where we've gotten an inroad because of a partner that exists on ground. So we've entered a state because a partner has kind of invited us to be on ground as well. So I think, and also to use their wisdom as a partner who's working on ground, because there's a lot that they add in terms of value as well. But it's quite tough, I would say. It's not easy. It's very nice to say collaborations, but it is difficult to also keep those collaborations. Much like Shivi said, I think if you're aligned on what is the vision or the purpose, it does help, but it's also very important to have very clearly defined roles and responsibilities and a mechanism to hold each other accountable, review that at a regular interval as well, and also communicate honestly if something's not working, because that's happened to us quite a bit in the past as well. And I'm sure it happens to both organizations who are in the partnership, but I think as long as you can be honest about what's going on, what's working and what's not working, and find a way to move beyond that, I think that's what kind of helps the entire situation. I think with youth by itself, our approach to it is a little more organic, because as an organization, we work for the youth. So as the youth kind of pass out through the programs, we bring them back into the organization as well. So actually 50% of the staff that we have at Antarang is youth. And that's how we actually keep the focus on everything that the youth is thinking, wanting to kind of change. We bring it back into our curriculum, into our program, into our strategy at regular intervals. And we also have a youth advisory board that helps us be in line with what they really want at the forefront. Even through the program, what we've tried to do is kind of collect feedback at regular intervals from the students about everything that we are kind of disseminating to them. And that's done at least twice in the entire year, so that if there is something that's not working for them, and that's feedback on the program, on the people who are conducting the program as well. So as long as we're constantly listening to them and feeding it back into everything that we are doing, I think that's really critical. We also advocate to governments to create a body that has youth involvement as well whenever they are planning to start a career readiness initiative. We're still quite nascent in that space, so won't say we've been super successful there, but I think it's something that we definitely advocate for, because ideally they should be there, involved very much so in the decisions that are being made for them, and it should be run by them.
We are a bit short with time, so I'm going to also go into the questions that have come on the chat. One is, this is directly to Arjun. Vishal says, we need strong policy foundation which creates environment to use the digital world for making mental health supportive and everything. So what do you think about that? Because he thinks otherwise it's a waste of human capital. I think that's it. Arjun, over to you.
Right. So so I'm not sure what Vishal means by a policy foundation. We do have a fairly robust law policy framework, and fairly progressive, which is rights-based, intersectoral, community-based. Of course, there's a lot more that can be improved, but I think, like I said at the beginning, there is still we're still falling back on implementation and actualizing this law and policy framework. So I think a lot of our effort also goes in working with government to see how some of this can be operationalized at a actually practical level. I think the digital world. I'm not sure if I understand the question completely, but yes, of course, the technology is a huge enabler, and I think one has to leverage that. And this, of course, comes with all of the riders around data protection, privacy, and all of those concerns. So that's taken for granted. But I think technology in itself can be a huge enabler for facilitating human-to-human connection or interaction. So, for instance, one of the programs that youth-based programs that we implement at CMHLP is a peer support platform. It's called Outlive Chat, where we train youth volunteers as peer supporters to provide suicide prevention support to any young person who's in distress or in crisis or having thoughts of suicide. And this peer support is provided on a chat-based platform through text-based chat, and it's completely anonymous, so that you protect the privacy and the identity of both the young person who's using the service, but also the peer supporter themselves. So I think the digital space is definitely something which can be leveraged for not just improving outreach, but also facilitating services to the last mile. Another example of where we've leverage technology or the digital space is some of our formative work with panchayats in Chhattisgarh, where we actually developed a digital game simulation to build capacities of panchayat members to understand the lived experiences of, say, people living in that community and the systemic challenges that they might experience. And it's done through a digital game where the panchayat member actually goes through this fictitious character's journey and understands all of these challenges. And then we do a solutioning exercise with them to say, okay, how can the panchayat then activate its own institutional mechanisms to provide for policy interventions or solutions for mental health care and support. Similarly, we've developed a storytelling game for civil society organizations to gather their stories of accessing care, or the barriers in accessing care, or systemic barriers, and then kind of taking that to the panchayats for them to think about. So I think the digital space can be leveraged in different ways for different purposes. So technology is definitely an enabler, but it's not a panacea, and it's not a full solution. And I think one has to be mindful about that.
Thank you so much. I think it was all of us had a smile throughout, because everybody said something that we all have seen, gone through. So that was quite a warm feeling. There was one question that what do NGOs really see or seek for when looking for a government partnership? I think that wraps up this whole panel, because everybody did talk about, when we would like to collaborate, we're trying to see how a lot more advocacy and awareness can really happen. And that's why these alliances and partnerships become really important. Fundraising is a very different, separate kind of a scenario, I think, which is difficult, tough, we aspire for, but not something that comes in the top while talking with the government. I think it's a lot more in terms of expertise and the kind of hold they have in the community. So, of course, the larger goal, while we were discussing also before with the same group, that, it definitely goes into influencing policy at some point. But there are smaller wins that we get with the government also, which kind of eases all our intervention. So I think that's something that was resonating in everybody's conversations. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a pleasure being on this panel. I am going to hand it over to Tanya.
Thank you so much, Angel. And to all the panelists for sharing your experiences and learnings with us. With that super engaging and power-packed conversation, we now come to the end of this webinar. I would just like to take some time to share like a big thank you to everyone present here today for taking out the time and engaging with us so actively. The chat was buzzing constantly. Thank you so much for participating, so thoroughly and actively with us. And I also want to take a few minutes to convey our gratitude to all the panelists present here. Thank you for today, for giving your time and culling out learnings from years of work, and that you've shared with us here. And also thank you for all your dedication, commitment to the learning journey with Dasra. It has been a meaningful one for us, and we hope to continue to collaborate with all of you. If we can use our, the emojis box that we have on Zoom, just give like one round of virtual applause to all the panelists present here. Thank you so very much for being champions of young people's agenda and also constantly innovating and sharing solutions on how a problem can be solved at scale. Last but not the least, thank you to the Dasra team, Daigo, Anamika, Radhika for ensuring a smooth flow of the webinar, and to Anmol as well for making this entire webinar accessible in Hindi too. And we would love to hear from our participants, the entire, the feedback that you have for us. We have now pasted a chat, a web feedback link for you to share like your insights and thoughts about this. Leaving the link of this webinar on maybe for another 1 minute for everyone to access the feedback link, and then we can close the webinar. Thank you so much again, and have a great evening. Hello, I can see someone raising their hand for questions. May I request that we'll just be pasting a web email ID in the chat for you, and you can drop your suggestions, questions there. I'm so sorry, due to lack of time and also because everyone is dropping out now, we won't be able to take this question. But please feel free to reach out to us at 10 to 19 community@dasra.org. Thank you. Can close this link now. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you had the chance to look at the feedback format and access it. We hope to stay connected with all of you. Thank you so much. We can close the webinar link.